starts.
Is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
We're glad you're with us on this particular Saturday in the month of March. The madness continues as we've turned it from the state basketball championships. That was the last one that concluded our 2026 extravaganza at the VHSL state tournament. A weekend ago at VCU Siegel Center, Petersburg Crimson Wave winning their first title since the 70s, 52 years, as they were among the 12 champions crowned last week. Petersburg boys, along with Westfield and Norview and John Hanley, as well as the Graham G men and the Luray Bulldogs. And on the girls' side, state champs. I don't know if Ed can name all six. I'll do it for him. Osborne Park, Princess Anne's Lady Cavaliers, the Manor girls, Abingdon. You had in Class 2 and Class 1 champions handed out on the girls' side to go with those four, the likes of, Ed thought it'd be Central Wise, didn't get there this year, but Clark County and George Witt repeat. Instead, it was Galax. But we're here to talk all things hoops with you and so much more. I am Matt Hatfield. He is the coach, Ed Young. He's all spiffy today, and looks like he's outside. Good morning, sir. How's your bracket?
Well, the first night, first of all, the coach greets all. The Thursday night I lost. Thank you, Carolina. I was going to go VCU, but I chickened out. And by the way, Georgia. Can somebody put an APB out on Georgia and find out where their team is? Ooh. That was the most horrendous games I've ever seen in basketball anywhere. St. Louis dismantled them.
Yeah.
Those are the two I lost Friday. I'll be honest with you. I really haven't seen all the bracket. I lost Santa Clara yesterday.
Wait. You haven't seen all the brackets? Where you been? You not been watching the hoops?
I've been catching pieces of it. I'm out and about. I got places to go and people to see on some things that were set up a while ago. So
you're required to do this show and be on top of the ball here, not honky tonk in America. What's wrong with you?
You give me the game. Give me the games, and I'll tell you who won. Santa Clara got screwed without getting the timeout.
Well, I'm glad you're. Oh, I want to play that clip. Don't jump the apple. What do they say? Put the horse for the cart, heart for the horse. Don't do all that. Let me get to Herb said next. Okay. I got his film. I got that coming up here. But there's the bracket challenge, by the way. We're going to do a second chance bracket. Second chance. We said if everybody had a perfect bracket, they would have a chance for $1 million and a car, Ed's car. So you'll be glad to know, Ed, the first place leader, clip 5,002, 99.8%. He's already got an L, so nobody has a perfect bracket. But I think Packer coaches you, isn't it?
Where am I at? I can't read that.
Oh, you can't see it. Are you Packer? Are you Packer coach? That's you, right?
I think so.
Well, you're sitting in a tie for third with Jay Most, James, Josh Holmes, and you're right behind our buddy Justin Waddell. What does Waddle know? He's in second. He's got Duke winning it all, and clip 5,002 is sitting in first right now. So that's the bracket, and there you have it. There you have it. Hey, by the way, I hope please, I hope our guys are listening. I'm going to send an APB out for Chuck and Nick and the gang. Once again, I'm getting a message from the YouTube audience. They're trying to make comments, and they're not allowing us to make comments. So please, guys, we're not getting any comments from people that are trying to watch and interact with us. So try to get that fixed if you're out there watching, because this is discouraging for those that want to interact with us on the show. But anywho, yeah, you're sitting in third place. So there you have it.
No, I'll take that. Where I didn't see your name. Where are you at?
Where am I at? Where am I at? That's a great question.
Was it 19th?
Where am I at? I'm not doing too hot in this. I am sitting in 15th. Shh. Hasn't been too good. But I did have High Point winning one of my brackets. Had all kinds of issues with my bracket. My bracket was not as great as I was hoping for it to be. So there you have it. Let's go through what we've got today. Well, but yeah, before we do that, there was a couple of things that you mentioned. The sound, Herb Sendek and their game, but there's only 4 double-digit seeds alive, Ed, in the NCAA tournament round of 32. We're down to a couple of SEC schools that are left in it, and those are the likes of Texas A&M and Texas, a 10 and an 11. And then you have High Point, who was a trendy upset pick to beat Wisconsin, and VCU, the Rams, coming from 19 down to beat UNC. So those are the last 4 double-digit seeds. And you know who the coach at High Point is? A lot of people don't know who it is. It's a guy named Flynn Kaman, and he was outspoken about his group, High Point, saying they belong and they should be getting opportunities to play some of the big boys.
And it's pretty obvious to me that something needs to be done about this non-conference scheduling. High Point and Miami, Ohio are 2-0 in quad 1 games. We couldn't get games. They couldn't get games. Akron couldn't get games. UNCW couldn't get games. Belmont couldn't get games. We won 22 of our last 23 games, and we didn't move up 1 spot in the metrics. Not 1. We won 22 of our 23. We've won 25 games by double digits. That team right there is a fantastic team that beat 5 top 10 teams. If we can get games like this on neutral courts and some home games, I think we'd know who's really the best teams. I'm proud of these dudes, and we're not just here to win 1 game. We're here to get to the Sweet 16.
You tell him, Flynn. You tell him. Tell him.
This was my point about Miami of Ohio. Did not deserve what they got, even though they lost in the second round. The big boys won't play the smaller schools. Definitely not at their place, at the smaller schools' place. Maybe neutral, but definitely they want them at their place. So you're going to tell me a Miami of Ohio, a High Point, Santa Clara, they're going to go play Florida, Houston, Michigan, Arizona, Florida, all on the road. Nobody's doing that. Nobody. Now, some of the schools that need some money will play those guarantee games, and will do that. Some of the smaller conferences that know they're only getting 1 bid, their champion, can go out and play all those teams, pick up $22 million, take some hard losses, and they know if they win their tournament, they're in the NCAA regardless. So that's why I have a problem with everybody saying, well, they don't belong. You know, we got to go with our 5th, 6th place SEC, Big Ten. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because the opposite of that is, if you're one of the big boys in a big conference, don't be crying that you finished 4th or 5th because your conference was tough. Somebody won it. So next time, get the players and win your conference. Then nobody can complain. So I get what he's saying. And he has this stage now to say it, though I think he's out after his next game. They play who they play next? Arkansas, right?
Yes.
Now,
it'd be nice if you had a bracket and you were looking and paying attention, but go ahead.
Interesting fact, John Calipari's last 2 losses, I heard this, I didn't make it up, have been to double-digit seeded teams.
Right. Can you name them?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
You should know one right off the bat. You should know one right off the bat. Right off the bat. Because they got to an Elite 8 and lost to Carolina. And their coach is no longer at that school. He's coaching in the Big East. Oh,
Sienna?
who is it?
Sienna?
Not you said Sienna? No, it's not Sienna. They lost to St. Peter's with Shaheen Holloway, who's now at Seton Hall. And you actually watched it in my living room, folks, not the studio here, the one with the piano and the fireplace. The other one, you and I, we watched it when his Kentucky Wildcats lost to the 14th seeded Oakland Golden Grizzlies with Greg Campy. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember because you broke 3 windows. For some reason, you were very serious about that game than the other one.
No, it wasn't that game. It was the next game with Kansas and Samford. Not Stanford or Fred Sanford, but Samford with an M. And that's another story for another time. Kansas won with ease on Friday night. But I shouldn't say ease. They did get down to 6 in the closing minutes of their matchup that they had in the 4-13 round, where they had a little bit of a tussle, not a big tussle, a little bit of a tussle with Cal Baptist. So it sets up a really compelling round of 32 game with them and the Johnnies, Rick Pitino's Red Storm. Rick Pitino, who wears a lot of Ed Young white suits or vice versa. Ed wears Rick Pitino white suits. But we are asking on Cova Sports TV which double-digit seed has the best chance to get to the Sweet 16. You have Texas, as we mentioned. They're currently a number 11 seed taking on Gonzaga. You have Texas A&M, a 10 seed. Buckyball, who was at Samford, by the way. See the transition there? They're taking on 2-seeded Houston, which if you remember a couple of years ago, Kelvin Sampson had a double-figure lead with 2 minutes to go against the Aggies, then coached by Buzz Williams, now the head man at Maryland. Was also the head man at Marquette and Virginia Tech, and had to go to overtime, where if I remember correctly, I have to go look this up, I think it was L.J. Cryer who bailed them out in the OT. They had some guys that fouled out, but it would have been an all-time gag for Kelvin. Not Calvin or Kevin. It's Kelvin Sampson. He gets very defensive about that, as he should. He should get his name right, no matter how overrated of a big-time coach he is. That's what I started right. And then your other double-digit seeds, I should say, VCU, the Rams, also known in some parts, for those in the 757 who don't like them, as those varmints, the VCU Rams. Ed, they've now gone to the tournament or advanced with 7 different coaches, I think it is, in this modern era. When you talk about names like Shaka Smart and Jeff Capel and Anthony Grant and Mike Rhodes and Will Wade and Ryan Odom, who's coaching Virginia, and now Jimmy Martelli, Phil's son, taking on the Illini of Illinois with a lot of European talent and flavor. Keaton Wagler, projected to be a top 10 to 20 pick in the first round of the NBA draft. And, of course, High Point taking on Arkansas, as you outlined. Which one has the best chance to get to the Sweet 16? So we're asking you on Cova Sports TV. Interact with us on the social pages. Hopefully we get the comments rectified on the YouTube because, again, we're still not getting the comments coming through. For whatever reason, I don't know. So hit us up on the X, or the Twitter, or the Facebook, the IG, whatever. We'll get your comments if we can for those that want to interact with us. But you go ahead as we try to troubleshoot that. What do you think?
I would say Texas, which was a playing team, would have a shot against Gonzaga. I don't think
first 4 now, not playing. They used to be called playing, but I won't be picky with you on that. So let me ask you, for you give your reason. Is that more because of Texas or their opponent in Gonzaga, who has only one post? They don't have Braden Huff. They have Graham Ike, who's great. I know you joke he's 32 years old, but he's great. Do you think that's more about Gonzaga, a little sketchy against Kennesaw State? They don't shoot as well as some past Gonzaga teams. Or is it more about Sean Miller's current Longhorns bunch? Why?
Yeah, I think Texas matches up very well with them. In fact, it could be a situation where Gonzaga has to worry about matching up with Texas. And then I look at the other games, though. A&M against Houston, I think Houston is rolling. I don't see them. High Point, I think a lot of people want to go with High Point because they'll figure Calipari will find a way to lose it. What we said before, where the 2 double digits he has lost to 2 other double-digit teams the last time he lost in the tournament. And VCU is going to run into who? Who's VCU playing?
Nice to know you were paying attention, as I had myself muted. VCU plays Illinois, if you were paying attention.
That's a loss. That's a double-digit loss.
You sure about that?
Yes. Write it down. Double-digit loss. I love VCU, and I hope they win. They're not beating Illinois. Illinois can get to the Final Four. Not that I have picked them, but that's what I'm saying. Based on looking at the other matchups, Texas, I think, has the best matchup against Gonzaga, though I like Gonzaga. But I would pick Texas in that game.
Okay. I think that could be if Illinois, who's blown some double-figure leads this year, lets the Rams hang around, they could get bit just like North Carolina did, Hubert Davis's bunch, minus Caleb Wilson. And we saw what happened there with that.
You know, when you look at these teams,
mm-hmm.
and people say it's a year where the ones and twos are clearly better than everybody else, you got to understand that some of these younger teams, unknown teams, double-digit seed and all that, you made a good comment, if they stay close, 20-point leads are not a big deal in college basketball, pro basketball, and even high school basketball. If you got kids that can shoot that three, and you're steady on defense, and you're not blinded by the big stage, you really do have a shot against some of the teams. Now, you look at Howard against Michigan. They got lost by what? Was it 20, 100 to 80? But Howard did not embarrass themselves. You know, that's a team most people would have said they have no shot. But for the first half, they did. It comes down to Michigan way more talent, especially when you get to the bench. Those big power teams, they have second units that probably would start on most of those lower level D1s. And that's why you have to look at it when you start. Everybody tries to pick teams to win the NCAA tournament. Everybody loves to pick the little darlings that they can say, well, see, I knew they were going to go to the Elite Eight. I knew it. Nobody ever heard of them. Well, you didn't hear of people. They didn't hear of them either. You're just trying to pick somebody, and you hear some of the professional talking heads say, well, watch out for High Point. They play an up-tempo style. They shoot the ball very well, and they play in-your-face defense. But High Point against a Michigan and Arizona, probably going to lose 8 out of 10 times. You're not playing them 10 times. That's just based on pure talent level. There is a discrepancy among talent level. And that's why you see like a Miami of Ohio, a High Point. They win lower level conference. They got a really, really good five, maybe 1 or 2 decent guys off the bench. And the rest of those guys, nobody would want. Their first 5, the big boys would want them. They would definitely. Sometimes the NCAA tournament for these low level teams is they're just shopping their players around to the bigger squads who can give the kids way more money, the NIL money and all that. That's the era we are in now. I'm listening for when they talked about these guys in the tournament. When a kid comes to the foul line, I'm waiting for them when they say, this kid's a senior. He's been at VCU all 4 years. He's been at wherever all 4 years.
You're gonna be waiting. You're gonna be waiting past the commercial break. And listen, I'm gonna get you mad, but I don't care. I don't give a darn. Don't get like Barkley and Vi title of the night. I think it was awesome they did a game together, but they tried to ruin the broadcast of the game by spending 20 minutes in game going over NIL and transfer portal. That is not the time and place to have that discussion in the middle of a game.
I agree.
And of course, Brian Anderson had the hoarse voice. They replaced him with Benetti, who does a really good job as well. And Anderson's one of the best in the business. And I love Dickie V and Charles, but that was not the place and time to basically go on a self-righteous, here we're going to go on a rant with, what's wrong with the sport. We know what's wrong with the sport. Everybody knows that by now. Let's worry about the games. We got 32 games. We have Sweet 16s spots on the line. We understand that 15 of 16 years there were seeded 13 through 16 where 1, 2, 3s, and 4s got knocked off. It's now 2 straight years where none of them happened. Those upsets are gone. But Duke was biting its fingernails on Thursday against Siena and Jerry McNamara, who, by the way, did an awesome job and showed a guy who calls for more subs than a guy that stops at Zeros or Subway, and Ed Young, that you can take a team to the wire without subbing. Now, maybe they didn't get over the hump because they couldn't sub. That's debatable. But he had a great game plan against the almighty Duke, who's missing its point guard, who's missing its center, and now tries to turn the page and shun the doubters and say it was just an aberration. And Siena had a great performance, shot it well in the first half, stayed connected as they take on a dangerous TCU Horned Frogs team coached by a vet and Jamie Dixon, who's blown a couple of big leads this year. See the Kansas game in Fog Allen. Also, they beat Florida, the defending champs. And then you had the game yesterday, Ed, where as I was getting out of my school duty, I was glued to my phone with those two amazing shots. Otega Owe answering what was thought to be a game winner for Santa Clara, and they go to OT, and the Cats stave off Santa Clara. A couple of big-time blocks in the OT. I mean, look, those games were pretty good. It wasn't an all-time first 2 days. I'm not going to sit here and insult the audience and say they were all-time games, but let me get back to what you had said earlier about the screw job for Santa Clara, because Herb Sendek, I know you know him from your travels and days of recruiting when he was at NC State, and also coached at Arizona State, right, before he got Santa Clara? I believe that's right. I think he was there briefly.
He was an assistant, I think, under Patino at Kentucky.
Yeah. So anyways, he had and I want to know what you would do in this spot as a coach. They hit the three with, was it 2.5 seconds, something like that, of that nature, with just a couple seconds left, and he tried to get the timeout. And here's what he told the media afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I unequivocally called timeout, but they didn't grant it. I mean, I think the video evidence is clear, and anybody's able to pull it up. So, which, is a likely response after Allen hits the three, that the coach would be calling timeout to set the defense, which I tried to do, and I was successful in doing, other than it wasn't acknowledged or recognized. And so that's what happened.
So as you heard there, Herb said, and I know you're having trouble with your device over there, so I'll just reset it for those that are just tuning in. He said he unequivocally tried to call timeout. It wasn't granted or acknowledged. He was trying to set his defense. I'm sure you've had this situation happen to you in your coaching career. You're trying to get the timeout in there to set the defense up. Now listen, if he calls the timeout, it's granted, and they come out of the timeout and they hit a shot, everybody's screaming at Herb Sendek, "Why did you call timeout? Let him drop a play." So it's almost, as a coach, you're going to lose there. But the official, I get it if the referee didn't hear it because it's so loud in there, but you gotta be able to see that he's calling timeout. And we can't show video, by the way, because it is copyrighted by the NCAA. So folks that want to see video of it, I can't unfortunately play video. We'll get flagged. We can't play it on our podcast because we're not one of the NCAA's partners / sponsors, if you will. So we can't play, unfortunately, any video. We'd love to play those clips for folks, but you can find them online if you want to see them, or you happen to miss it, want to see it again. But your thought as a coach, because that's one of those situations. Now it goes to OT, and the dog is never expected to bounce back from something like that in the OT session. It's happened before. I go back to Jim Larinaga and George Mason in 2006 region final against UConn, where they did bounce back going to OT. But it's rare that a dog does respond from a moment like that.
Well, a couple things in that game in particular. In college basketball, if I'm not mistaken, when you score, the clock stops and until it's thrown in, and then it goes again. It's one of the rules that's very different than NBA or high school, if I'm not mistaken. I can easily stand corrected. If you look at it, the clock stopped. They throw the ball in bounds. The kid catches the ball. I think he takes a dribble. Then the clock starts. So he kind of got, I'm going to say, maybe a extra second. In that situation, that extra second was big, because if he gets it off a little bit less than 2.4, it might get waved off. That's one thing. Second thing, now if you watch Coach Sendek, and Coach Sendek he knows the ins and outs in coaching, unbelievable. The guy's like a 5.9 student back at Carnegie Mellon. The guy's extremely intelligent. He's at the end of the bench, and nobody's brought this out in the network yet. Big Head's talking. He's at the end of the bench. Now he goes running down the bench to get the slot official's attention. And the slot official, once the shot was made, his job is to hurry up and move down the floor. Now, he is what the slot official is watching the action on the floor. That's what he's supposed to be doing. But I'm going to make this statement. Most officials, good officials, are going to look back over their shoulder at the coach to see if, in fact, he's going to call a timeout, because it's a crazy situation. Crowd going nuts. The shot puts him up. Less than 3 seconds to go in the game. Kind of look over your shoulder. It's happened to me a million times. And sometimes what I'll say to an official coming down the floor, as the slot official passes me, hey, if we make this shot, I want a timeout. I'm telling you right now, I want a timeout. And I have been granted a timeout without yelling it. They gave me the timeout because I told him. So there's no clock discrepancy with me. It is, you coach, you wanted a timeout. If I were to step in there and say, well, I didn't call, you can't give it to me, I can't do that because he already going to know, coach, you told me, as soon as you scored, call timeout. I'm giving you the timeout. Now, I'm surprised Herb didn't say that to one of the officials on the way down. If we get it,
but I don't think you're thinking that's too far ahead. Ordinarily, I get what you're saying there. But the other one that people are beating him up on is why they didn't foul. That is so chaotic and quick that unless you have it come out of the timeout, bang bang. And again, now with this continuation, there have been a couple teams that have been bit with that. I believe Notre Dame and Micah Shrewsbury got bit by that against Cal or Stanford. It might have been Cal in a late night West Coast ACC matchup. Earlier in the year was a 4-point play, then it got him beat. So you have to be careful of that too. And ordinarily, I'm a guy that believes in up 3, you foul. But when it's under 4 to 3 seconds, it's hard, and that continuation can happen. You can grab them real quick on the inbound, but it has to be. It's a lot harder to execute that than it is if it's 7, 8 seconds and you just say, do it, let's extend the game, and then they can't advance the ball into the front court without a timeout. Or if they have the timeout, unlike the women's game and the pro game, you can advance the ball. It's different for the men's game. So there's a lot of different mechanics that go into it. But bottom line is, at the end of the day, it was there for Santa Clara, and Kentucky took it. And now Kentucky moves the page to tomorrow to take on Iowa State, the number 2 seed, who a lot of people have in their brackets taking down Michigan. But their senior forward, who's one of the standouts, we'll ask this hopefully to Mike DeCourcy coming up in the next hour of the program, who's going to join us. Sporting News, Fox Sports, Big Ten Network, one of the very best in the business covering college basketball. Jefferson sprained his left ankle in their 34-point romp over Tennessee State. So we'll see. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to play. There are some guys that are out because of injury, about the 2 Duke guys, and Caleb Foster, Patrick Ngumba, as well as Mikal Brown, who's out today for Louisville. They were able to escape USF, who had a comeback charge in the final minutes, the Bulls. They won't have Mikal Brown against Michigan State in its quest to reach the Sweet 16. But it's going to be interesting to see if Kentucky can get it fired up again to go take down Iowa State. That would be you don't think of that as an upset, but a 7 taking down a 2, and the way Iowa State played yesterday, that would be an upset if it happens. So a lot of compelling matchups coming up in the round of 32 and Sweet 16, more than what we had in the first round, because going back to an earlier point as we get ready to go to break here, it's been a lot of chalk these last couple of years, and a lot of it is because of NIL and the portal. When you think about the fact that yesterday and on Friday, all 16 favorites, all 16 of them were victorious. Not, 12 of 16 or 14, all 16. And of the 32 games in the round of 64, not counting those first 4 games, 13 of them were 20-plus point victories. So there was a lot of wide margins. There was not as many thrillers or buzzer beaters or captivating action. I think the 2 best games were obviously what you would consider between the VCU overtime game with UNC and that Kentucky-Santa Clara game we talked about.
Yeah, arguably those would be the best 2 because of the situation. And I'm going to go one more thing about the Santa Clara situation for all the in the stands and behind the TV in the living room coaches out there. You could say all what you would have done because you're able to watch it and then second guess. When you're in that moment and you're dealing with those kids, and it's a loud crowd, and it's the excitement of the NCAA tournament, the pressure of the NCAA tournament to win in advance because it's money. Yeah, you could say what you would have done. I don't blame Coach Sendek on anything that he did wrong. Yes, you talk about, I know you're a big proponent. You foul. Don't let him get a 3-pointer off. And a lot of times kids' mentality is they get away from the shooter because they always hear in the huddle, don't foul, don't foul. And, kids that's taking he gets the long shot from half court. If you go up and bump him, he's getting 3 foul shots. He's not going to get 2. So he can still tie the game, even though I think there's more pressure shooting them free throws. And it's really kind of lucky to make a shot from half court, even though I'm starting to see more and more kids, as soon as they come over half court, even in high school, they can hit that shot if they've been working on it. So that's one of the things I put in there. But you're right about the chalk situation lately, and I do think it has a lot to do with NIL. And but you do still see some teams like that VCU, which is kind of neat because they're out of Virginia. And speaking of Virginia, how about the scare a little bit the UVA had with Wright State?
Yeah. Wright State pushed them to the wire. We'll get into that a little bit more here as we move things along because that was a game that UVA had to sweat out. And they've had a couple of sweats in the tournament recently. We know that UMBC loss, of course, still haunts fans despite their national championship run to glory in 2019. But we're going to take a time out because coming up next, we have a special guest with us. One of your faves and mine, too. He is the head girls basketball coach of the Manor Mustangs in Portsmouth, state champions in Class 4. What a ballgame that was last Saturday that we got to watch courtside and so many across the country on the NFHS network. Roger Smith, his team pulled out a thriller over Salem. We'll talk to him about their wild postseason journey and the bright future ahead for that Portsmouth crew because I believe one of his freshmen, Ed, got offered by JMU yesterday, and she's a player we'll talk about coming up here as we move things along on this edition of 757 Sports Talk. We're talking high school and college hoops with you all morning long on Cova Sports TV. Back to this quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why parents count on CHKD Sports Medicine, advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries just for young athletes like yours. With convenient locations across Hampton Roads and a whole team of experts here to keep your favorite player at the top of their game. CHKD Sports Medicine. Learn more at chkd.org or call the CHKD Sports Injury Hotline.
Cova Painting. We don't just paint, we transform spaces. Visit covapainting.com or call 757-550-7357 and mention the Sportsplex for 10% off of projects over $1,000.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever! The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger for a limited time, plus fries, drink, and a sundae. Yeah, this is not the time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. And there's bacon on that burger. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Now, for a limited time on the $7 meal deal lineup. Only at DQ. Happy tastes good.
To the Mustangs of Manor High School.
And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And we welcome you back to 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to Cova Sports TV. We're going to have a special guest with us. He is the head girls basketball coach of the state champion Manor Mustangs from Portsmouth, 43-40. You saw the celebration trophy presentation for his group. Roger Smith with us as his team gets it done. Congratulations, Coach. What a wild month of March it has been for you and your young ladies. It has to feel pretty sweet, doesn't it?
Yeah, to end it that way, it's real sweet. Man, it's been a whirlwind, I tell you that.
Yeah, it has. Before we get into the whole saga, and I know you and Coach were even talking about it before you were in the postseason, out of the postseason, back in the postseason. As you watch those highlights, and you got pretty emotional afterwards, and understandably so, you can share all those reasons why with the audience in a moment. But to get it done, you've been so close over the years. You've had a number of terrific young ladies. To do it against the Salem team that beat you last year, it was pretty storybook ending, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. It was definitely a storybook ending. To be able to have the opportunity to play the team that put us out last year, It was definitely a storybook ending because from what I'm hearing, they were basically in the championship game last year. So I know that had to be hard on them to have to lose 2 years in a row in the state final game.
For sure. And as you go back looking at that game, we touched on it during break as a tease. I think she got offered by JMU. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but your freshman, Josiah Babb, I think she's the difference in the game. You had some good young ladies. You were close against them last year, but 23 points as we showed the stat sheet here on the screen, 11 of 12 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 steals. I mean, she's going to be a special one, isn't she? She already is pretty good for you.
She definitely is. She's definitely already good beyond her years, man. She plays like more like a senior than like a freshman. She's very poised, and the moment the lights come on, that doesn't affect her at all. She just loves the hoop, man, and she's gonna go out there and give you her best shot every time she goes out there on the floor. And I was a little concerned at first to see how she would respond to it, but initially she just came out and played like it was any other game.
We're chatting with Roger Smith, head girls basketball coach of the Manor Mustangs, who won a classic over Salem last week in the VHSL Class 4 state championship, 43-40. You see the stats there. 9 lead changes, 6 ties, and Coach Ed Young was on the edge of his seat for every possession, weren't you, Coach?
Yeah, no, I picked Roger to win it all. And Roger, the guy that's talking to us, did not pick you at first.
Oh, hold on. I didn't time out before the tournament, and then I changed it after the semis, Coach, because I saw how wide you won your quarters and semis, and Salem had to escape close against Hampton. So I did change my pick. I want to put that out there. Ed shakes his head over there, trying to get me in trouble.
Roger, he changed his pick when you took the lead in the but that's okay. We're going to let him have his glory because that's what he does. Now, what I do want to say in all seriousness, now, Roger, you're driving your car, it looks like, and I've been in a car with you. Are you sure you could do this interview while you're driving and not going through red lights, driving on the left side of the road? Are you sure you can do this? Because I don't want to hear the police siren, and I don't want to get back.
No, I think I'm fine. I'm keeping my eyes more on the road than on you guys. That's for sure.
Well, please do that because we're not important to look at. Make sure you know where you're going. And I see you have somebody in the back seat.
Oh yeah, I got my star player in the back seat. One of my star players, anyway.
Okay.
And I tell you what, she's got rosary beads. She's praying like crazy. Lord, unbelievable. I know one thing. If I'm on an interview, I'm not having one of my players in the car because if I do get an accident, I don't want to get hurt. And then you're going to end up back in court, and this time it ain't about your team. It'll be about you.
Yeah, man, we're headed over here to Boo Williams practice, man. So it never ends, bro.
You know what? We do feel good for you. Like I said, I'm not going to go over all you're in court, out of court, in court. You know, you're in a court you don't want to be in. But you're vindicated and you got to play. And to me, it's a storybook finish because of what you had to do every step of the way. And there were some naysayers out there hoping you would lose because they felt like the girl should have been ineligible and all that. And I'm not getting into all that. It's done with. You want a title, you deserve the title, enjoy it. My question is, as an opposing coach to you, and Matt puts those stats back up where we can see it. How do you win a state title shooting 22%?
Tough, man. We just sometimes the ball just doesn't go in, so you got to play defense. So we kind of hang our hats on defense, and if we stop people, then we don't have to score as much as we ordinarily would score. So that's the key right there. And I feel like when we turned our defense up some, that was the difference in us winning the game.
And the reason I bring that up, Roger, is not it's 22% is 22%. I don't blame that on coaching, but here's the thing, and we both know this. When your team is shooting bad, there's a good chance they're not going to play much defense either because their head's not in it, because they're not making shots. Now it's like you really got to squeeze it to get something out of them. Your kids, and I made this comment to somebody in the sideline on the opposite side. I wasn't broadcasting your game, but I was watching. I said, watch how his kids dig more and more into defense because they're not shooting worth a darn. But this defense where most coaches can't get their kids to do that especially if they're shooting at bat. And now that, to me, is coaching. And my hat's off to you on that situation.
And this was this was one of our closest games we had during the year. We had some other pretty close games. We played some tough teams. We played Gainesville. I think it was Gainesville. I think it was Mitchville. We played them pretty solid in the first half, and then they took the lead on us. And a couple other good teams that was over at Boo Williams Place. But those games like that prepared us for the state tournament because our district wasn't very strong at all. So we had to pick some non-conference games. Then we also played Hatfield. I think that was a 1-point game that we played at She Got Game. So it wasn't like we hadn't been in that position before with a tough game. So that definitely gave us some made us battle tested so we could perform well in the state game.
One last one from me here before I let Coach finish up with you. A couple questions here. Roger Smith, head girls basketball coach, the Class 4 state champion. Manor Mustangs, our guest here on 757 Sports Talk before he heads into the Boo Williams Sportsplex. Coach, I don't want to dwell on it, obviously, but what happened off the court, how much of that galvanized your group? And speak about those young ladies on your team. We know about the headliners being Josiah Babb, the freshman, Ciasia Brown, a senior who I believe is headed to Bowie State. But speak on how much did that galvanize your group and what those young ladies brought to you on the court, because it felt like even in that championship game, despite the rock fight it was, a defensive struggle, some poor shooting, your team got the game in transition. You had somebody step up in a lot of different ways, whether it was Brown, Babb, Alana Jones with 3 steals and 2 blocks. Even Leah Williams had a couple of key baskets for you off the bench.
Yeah, we try to tell our kids to be ready. You never know when your name will be called to be able to help us out, because when Alana fouled out, Leah Williams stepped in and helped us out a lot. And I don't think the moment kind of bothered her very much at all, because she's actually now a 3-time state champion, because she's won states in the shot put as a freshman and as a junior, and to win it the other night, she was poised beyond measure to be able.
No, we lost Coach Smith here for a second. He was talking about her being poised beyond measure there, Ed, with Leah Williams. We'll try to see if we can recalibrate and get Coach back on. We lost him for a brief moment, but just an impressive performance.
Ran into a stop sign or something.
No, I think he was parked. I don't think he ran into a stop sign. She shake the head. I don't think he was. I don't think he was into a stop sign. But we'll see if we can get Roger Smith back on here from the Manor Girls program. Go ahead.
I think he ran into a parked car.
No, he didn't run into a parked car. You're funny.
Probably whose car?
Well, if he walked into the facility, I know that Wi-Fi can definitely cut you out there. But we do thank him for giving us some time. If we don't get him back on here, we hopefully should be able to get him back on here in a second, as I know he's trying to get his connection. There we go. We got Coach. We lost you for a second there. We got you back here, Coach. Apologize about that, but speak on it. You were talking about her poise beyond measure, if you can. Go ahead.
Yeah. Leah Williams, she kind of helped us out. She doesn't play a lot for us, but she actually plays basketball to stay in shape for track. And the kid she has won a state championship in the shot put as a freshman, as a junior, and now she's won a state championship as a basketball player. So she was kind of prepared, whenever we needed her, and she came in and did what she had to do, man. Big buckets from other people. We got our main players, but we make sure all our players know that they're important to the success of the team, because we aren't very deep. We weren't very deep at all. So she kind of helped us a lot by coming in like that, helping us out too.
Without a doubt. Ed?
Yeah, 2 things. See, in the men's NCAA tournament, Roger, Sienna took a page out of your book. They only played 5 people against Duke the whole game. You played 6.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
But now, you got to do what you got to do to win that thing, man.
And here's the other thing. I don't know why we're spending all this time with Roger when the kid right behind him did all the work. We need to make her lean forward and get her on here real quick. And what's her name again?
Josiah Babb. Hold on a second.
Josiah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Josiah?
Yes, I can.
Okay, young lady, let me say this. First of all, congrats on the state title. How does it feel from your standpoint?
It feels good. It's kind of a surreal feeling because I'm only a freshman and getting to experience it this early. It's nice.
Now, second thing, I know you being only a freshman, you still got 3 more years there with Coach Smith. Tell us how it's like. How is it like in practice with Coach Smith? And you're allowed to open up because he can't say nothing to you because you can leave now to go to JMU.
It's very chill. In practice, we don't do too much. We run, but that's normal. You got to stay in shape. We go over our plays, make sure we know our stuff. So it's not really, practice isn't like hard, but it does get us prepared for the game.
Does Coach get angry in practice?
Not really.
So he's
we
laid
don't
back.
usually make him, yeah, he's laid back. We don't do nothing to make him angry, so.
Okay, now here's the big question. Who does the best impersonation of Coach Smith among the team?
I would say Leah probably would. Leah.
Oh, okay.
Does Coach have any strange quirks that make Leah be able to do him really well? Is it the way he walks, he talks, or
probably the way he talks?
Well, we got to get Leah on sometime when Roger's not around.
Hey, one more quick one for you, Josiah. You had a heck of a performance. 23 points, as we mentioned, the 6 rebounds, 7 steals, 4 assists. I want to know for you, do you feel like the speed of the game, you played a really good Salem team, obviously it took you to the wire and it was back and forth, but do you feel like as the game got faster, that was to your favor? And do you feel like your strength as a player is in the open court where you can do so many things, be it offensively or defensively? Tell us what you think.
Yes, I think so because I'm a fast player. So like when the court is wide, it's easy for me to get to my spots and get to where I want to go. So I think that definitely helped.
Awesome, bright future. We thank you for the time. You can send it back to Coach Smith. We'll get one final question with him, and we wish you all the best moving forward. Congrats on the state title.
Good.
Thank you. All right, Coach. Before I let you run into Boo Williams, I mean, you got any advice for Ed because he's driving me crazy. He's not going to do a redo bracket. I mean, it is what it is. He's not watching the basketball. He's out in the town going to we can't say what city he's in, but it's not in Virginia. I mean, this guy's all over the place, Roger.
Roger, before you answer, get this. You're worried about, the parade you got to do with the girls, and congrats to you now. Now you're doing the Boo Williams. I was sitting in the 5th row last night at Genuine, Keith Sweat, Joe, and Silk concert last night. So
wow. That would have been nice. I would have liked to have been there myself. Wow. That's a nice lineup there.
And the scenery was tremendous.
Oh, I'm sure.
And tonight I've got good seats for the Hornets, and I think it's the Memphis Grizzlies.
He thinks. Well, he's living the high life. You're living a state championship life. All the best.
I have a state title, but I don't.
Hey, Coach, you still got a lot more years left, man. You can do it.
I don't know about a lot more years. If I don't get one pretty soon, I'll have to do it either way up there or way down there where you play no away games. One of the two.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time this morning. All the best to you and your young ladies again. Congratulations on what was an awesome tournament run. It was wild and zany, but you got it done with a championship, and we look forward to talking down the road.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, guys. Y'all take care.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
That is Roger Smith, head girls basketball coach of the state champion Manor Mustangs. What a performance they had beating Salem in what was one of the best games of the tournament, Ed. 43-40. I think we were ranking them the gold, the silver, the bronze championship games as far as best played or most entertaining, exciting games. I think that one's right in the conversation. The Princess Anne Menchville girls games in the conversation, and that Luray Fort Chiswell boys game definitely in that combo too. And you can't leave out the Green Run Norview boys games, as those four are really I think separated from the 12 as far as entertainment, competitiveness, big plays down to the wire. Those were some compelling matchups we had. And 7 of the 7 games decided by 7 points or less last week out of the 12 at VCU. I know a lot of the conversation piece has been, and I know this can open up a long debate or topic or discussion here about is the state basketball championships or the tournaments, are they watered down because of the 6 classifications? And folks, we've had 5 classes crowned champions for more than a decade now. We know it used to be AAA, AA, single A, but when you look at the drama we had and the high level of play, I can't sit here and say that it necessarily was. I understand why some might feel that way, but look, I mean, we saw some really good action, and quite honestly, it's out of people's control because of this all was a football motivated situation that got the classifications from 3 to 6, and that Loudoun area of the state is booming. It still is growing exponentially. That's why you have more Class 6 schools up in that area in Northern Virginia than you do anywhere else. So this was all, again, like we talk about with college sports, college football, college basketball, this was like college sports having to make maneuvers because of football. Football's the king. I know you're a basketball guy, but football's king, and that's why we have what it is. And people weren't squawking about when 3 state champs came into 7-5-7 with Oscar Smith, Morey, and Lake Taylor this past fall. So I say, you know what? Deal with it.
First of all, and I don't want to go on a long tirade, we're not going back to 3 classifications, and I, as an active coach, don't want to see it. If football is going to stay at 6, everybody stays at 6. And people say, well, it's not a real champion. It was harder back in the day. It was real back in the day. Well, and I'm a guy that spends a lot of time back in the day, but you got to move up to what's going on today.
Listen, everything was harder back in the day. When you had to walk 25 miles to school in the snow was back in the day. I only had to walk 15 in my days, and now the kids these they don't have to walk, not even 5 miles. Everything was harder back in the day.
And they don't even get snow like we got back in the day. So,
and by the way, for those former players, before you continue on, those former players that are making these comments about how it looks demeaning and looks degrading, and it looks, I get how they feel. I understand it, but we can't always do the era comp. We can't say this would have happened then because we have no proof of it. It's all opinion based. So it's just,
they have the right to their opinion, and I have
no
problem.
They do.
But I think from a misguided standpoint, that is what they're talking. And there's some coaches, I've seen some coaches say we need to go back to 3. First of all, it's not happening ever. So you need to change the narrative. That's not going to happen. And I don't think it's fair to have a school that has 100 kids in it to be thrown into a group that has 1,000 in it. Mm-hmm. So you where it is, and it doesn't. A single A state title is just as important as a 6A title. And for people to say, and I saw this online, well, the ones you really got to look at is 6A, 5A, 4A. And I was to myself, said, you got to be kidding me. He really said that? All of those titles mean the exact same thing. And as a person that's won a single A title back in the day, I strongly believe that. And I wish we would have had more classifications back in the day. I might have been able to get back there again. But my whole point is this. It's not watered down. It's based on enrollment. Now, if they pass this idea of open enrollment, it's going to make some things really different. And you might see some schools get bumped up because the enrollment goes up. But those kids are transferring for sport reasons. They're not transferring for academic reasons. And I have a problem with that because it's also going to hurt some schools that hardly ever have a chance to build their program because their kids will be steered away from those coaches or those schools. And it's not right. It definitely it's just not right. And you made another good point too. When you say it's demeaning, it's like taking away from some of the teams indirectly that won those, or those coaches that finally got to get a title in their career. Not all.
That's my point. That's my point, Ed. I don't think these players and coaches asked for the setup we have. That's basically what's in front of it. Just like we talk about with college basketball. Some of these schools can't control who they play in their schedule. It is what it is. You know. I'm sure, like now, Petersburg is the big giant now in Class 3 that won a championship. And a lot of those guys were at John Marshall. I'm sure if they had their way, they would like to play in Class 6, but they can't. They're in Class. They were in Class 2. They're now in Class 3. Petersburg is. It is what it is. Just accept it, celebrate it, or if you don't like it, don't watch and don't even entertain it. But to me, we're trying to diminish the accomplishments, and they shouldn't be diminished just because how the setup is.
And now I'll agree with this because a lot of people are saying this. Why don't we go the following week, which I guess would be this weekend, the champions, have a tournament of champions?
Well, you would have to do something outside the VHSL's umbrella, but it would take some type of entity. It would take a lot of resources and a lot of things to be implemented for that to happen. It'd have to be almost under a club name like the Princess Anne Girls, who, by the way, they were competing in the national championship known as the Throne. They beat a team from Arizona. Micah Ojo got hurt in that game, came back. She wasn't 100% healthy. They lost to Long Island Lutheran out of New York, who they actually, by the way, played 9 years ago and lost to on a buzzer beater in regular season game from half court. I know you, every time you say buzzer beaters in half court, Ed over there starts flinching and stuff, or twitching, I should say. But they lost by a pretty solid margin to this really good and a powerhouse Long Island Lutheran team. So you can go compete in national tournaments. John Marshall did it in the past. Paul VI has done it in the past. And by the way, salute to Glenn Farella before I forget, the Jersey Mike's National Coach of the Year. He was given that honor just this past week. Well-deserved for Glenn Farella. Ty White got it before a few years back, if you remember, at John Marshall, now the head coach of Petersburg. Anytime we have a National Coach of the Year in our state, boys or girls, we want to salute them. So big ups to Glenn Farella at PBI for what he's done there. But, yeah, I think it has to be done in a different type of format. But we've always loved that idea. And then how do you execute it? Because you go straight into spring sports. Some of these kids get off to college. They go into other sports. That's the tricky part of this. But I would be all in favor of something like that happening. It's just how it's done.
Then you've got 6 champions, so it's an uneven number. You probably who you giving a bye to, and of course they're rotated every year.
You do just like you do in football in those old NFC, AFC divisional rounds. You give the 1 and 2s buys, and you have 3, 6, 4, 5 is what you do. And you would seed them. To me, the way to seed them, in my opinion only, is you do it based off a formula or win percentage or a combination of those two things. So like in this particular year, I would probably say who had no losses to anybody from Virginia. And that would be on the boys' side, Petersburg. They'd be my 1 seed. Then I'd say your number 2, your best win percentage or losses to public schools. Nobody had a loss to public school from Virginia was Westfield. They'd be my 2 seed. So I'd give Petersburg and Westfield the buys, so 1 and 2. And then 3, 6, 4, 5, I would look at how I'd seed them from there. I'd probably have, I have to think about this off the top of my head, Norview as my 3 seed, Hanley as my 4 seed. My 5 seed would then be Graham, and my 6 seed would be Luray. And people would probably say you'll get a matchup in the semifinals of Westfield versus Hanley and Norview versus Petersburg. I do it backwards. You'd get Norview versus Westfield and Hanley versus Petersburg. Probably what you would get. Yeah, that's what you would get. And you'd be all in favor of that, I'm sure, of that. As I know you start to have the wheels turning in your head over there. I can see them turning. They're turning, folks. They're turning fast and furious in Ed's noggin over there.
I'm almost sitting at the table broadcasting the games right now. It would be cool to do, but again, VHSL is never going to go for it because it's extra games. It's into the spring season. You'd have to play, 3 days? You'd have to play 3 days. So we're looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They don't do anything on Sundays. So
again, if it's not VHSL, you'd have to do a club situation where you get the club teal, like they called the first name was the Cavs. So you'd have the Wave or it's our turn now, whatever you want to call Petersburg's group. I love my guys at Petersburg. By the way, I would show you my shirt, but I have it in the wash. I wore it this week. I wore my shirt. I did. They were nice. Kudos to them that didn't watch our Sunday night special. Ty White, Michael Blackwell, and the gang over there at Petersburg giving us the Petersburg shirts. Ed wore his the other day too. He don't have it on. He's got his Hawaiian outfit today. But you'd have like Wave. You'd have Judges. You'd have no jokes. I see what you're thinking over there. No jokes. You have Bulldogs or something, or the Field for Westfield. I don't know which one to call it. You'd have little nicknames or names for them. So it could be done outside the VHSL umbrella, but those players would compete or participate. But my whole reason, here's my thing. You don't think of it in these terms. Get a charitable organization involved where the proceeds for tickets for this go to charity. If not all of them, a good portion of it. Because we could do something like this for a good cause that would be in breast cancer awareness or something of that nature. I think that should be done where it's something that it helps a good cause can be, done out of this. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I would agree with the people online and on the internet world that say, why don't we have, at least let's have all the champions play each other right now. Mm-hmm. Some people say, well, why don't we have a tournament at the beginning of next year? Well, you have changes in those teams.
Changes in the rosters, yeah.
Lost people, and there's no guarantee those teams are going to go back to the tournament or win it again. So I would like it the weekend right after, but wishful thinking.
Maybe you can talk to your your pals, your good buddies and friends, your compadres at the BCAV to see if you can organize something like this that would involve almost like an all-star type of setting with it. Talk to your powers that be, your cronies. There you go, your cronies, and see if y'all can come up with something like this. And again, I mean, we've got next week, I think it's the Mario Mullen All-Star Classic. I know y'all have the BCAV All-Star game. There's all kinds of all-star games. Do something like that where it's outside the VHSL umbrella, but there is a charitable element to it. That's my feeling on how this can be done. Because, again, now the one thing I don't want to see happen if we do have this is, you know, they have this Tournament of Champions, and then now if Luray or Graham gets clobbered by a Norview or Hanley, well, they didn't. It should take nothing away from what they did all year long to win a state championship, because that, as you know, is still difficult to do and hard to do and should be celebrated. And it's not quite the same as if you were to say, let's do a champions in Division I college basketball, where you take the NCAA Division I, Division II, Division III. That's way drastic and different. By the way, hats off to CNU, by the way. How about CNU and John Krikorian? What a job for, as we call him, the real Coach K and company, as they continue to march along in the NCAA Division III men's basketball tournament. They were 15th going into the tournament. They've won 4 games to reach the Final Four. They're taking on number 2 Emory today.
That is tremendous for Coach K. And Roland Ross, who was there when they first put the first brick down for CN, for Christopher Newport College, longtime assistant coach, and all that staff up there, and those kids too. That's really neat to see. And boy, I hope they can get another national championship and bring it to the 757 would be really great.
Yeah, they have a tough opponent who beat them pretty handily when they played back in December. So we'll see if they can move on. Remember, they won a national championship just a few years back. And there was something that – did he get a tattoo? He got a tattoo, didn't he, Coach K? He made some – or no, it was an earring. It was one of the two. It wasn't a tattoo. It was an earring, wasn't it? Did something he promised.
Yeah, it was something. I think it was – you know what? I think it was an earring.
I think it was an earring, yeah.
When I saw him this year, I don't remember if he still has the earring in or not. We'll have to find that one out.
Ladies and gents.
We'll get him on. We'll get him on here.
Ladies and gents, Ed refuses to get a tattoo, earring, or shave his head if his Smithfield Packers make a
away my car, sell my dog,
sell your dog.
Yeah, whatever the other crazy bets this joker here tries to get.
I never asked you to sell your dog. I would never do that to your dog Bear, who you love and he loves you. But shaving your head, I mean, when you don't have much on top anyway, what's the harm? I mean, what's the harm?
Well, it's my real hair, so I don't want to lose it. Plus, if I get rid of it, my ears are too big. A strong wind would probably lift me into the sky.
You can get a rug. You can get a toupee.
Costly.
It's costly?
That's what I'm hearing.
It's costly.
Yeah, don't forget now, salary-wise, I'm retired. I can't be spending money on
it's costly, says the guy who's going to shows like this. Free. You can pay it complaining about money. I heard it was 6 figures for a seat where he was. Look at that. 6 figures for those seats.
They were unbelievable. Really good seats, but you had people.
And they weren't costly. They were cheap seats, folks. They were cheap seats, yeah.
People would not believe what kind of a deal I got on, and that was pretty good.
Yeah. He only paid 4 figures, not 6.
I wouldn't be at no concert if I had to pay 4 figures. No way.
Anyhow, we have more coming your way. An hour's in the books. I have another hour with this guy, regrettably, or whatever word you want to use. But we do have Mike DeCourcy. We're not regretting that at all. We look forward to chatting with him coming up at 11:30 this morning about college hoops as the madness rolls on and college basketball. Round of 32. We'll dissect more of it as we move it along here on this episode of 757 Sports Talk. After a quick timeout, stay tuned.
Did you know that the minimum limits in Virginia are $30,000? $30,000 is a lot of money on an individual basis, but if you're involved in a personal injury matter, that's not enough. Here at Williams Deloitte, we're happy to provide a consultation on the amount of coverage you have in your vehicle. It can be confusing. Not many people understand it. You know you need to have it, but do you have enough? Give us a call today at 757-547-5555 so we can help you prepare in the case of an automobile accident or any other personal injury matter that you or your family may find yourself in.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why there's CHKD Sports Medicine. Advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever! The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger, fries, drink, and a sundae. No time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. Right now at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us. And the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk.
Usually it's Hatfield. That's why I try to tell everybody, get on Hatfield. He is the legal scribe, the talking head that knows all this, puts the whammies on. We do things different on this podcast. That's why we're rated number 3 in the state.
You got Play-Doh? Get out of here! We've got people all over the globe watching with us. Sitting in a phone booth with you would be very...
well, now, we got to have your own phone booth. I'm not sitting in a phone booth with you.
It is 757 Saturday Sports Talk here on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay, here with Hanley head basketball coach Zach Harrell Zook. His team wins at 61-42 over the Hampton Crabbers to capture the program's first ever state championship. Coach, I know you had a lot of sleepless nights preparing for the Crabbers who have won 26 in a row going into this game, and your team, the expectations being ranked number 1, the trials and tribulations with your key guy and Will Brundle going down. But did you ever envision winning the game the way you all did today in dominant fashion?
Yeah, you know, we kind of actually talked about, first off, I slept for an hour and a half last night. I ended up watching 7 games again last night. And
7?
Yeah, last night. They got a few on YouTube the YouTube makes the Hampton court look like 40 feet. So after I watched that, I'm like, you know what, we're just sending 5 back. Like, we're not even going to try for this rebound. Yeah, you know, they're so good, man. They're first class too. Man. Like that coach, I got a ton of respect for him. First class kids. You know, part of it's just like, man, you know, they also deserve to be a state champion too with how good they are. But we joked about or talked about like, man, we just haven't had a game this year. Like, we just blew it open.
You picked a good time, didn't you?
Yeah, and I felt like if we could get an early lead somehow and control that, at some point they might trap, which could then open uncontested threes for Javon and Will.
Yeah.
Or slash drives for Christian, where you could get those easier uncontested plays that you're not really going to get in the half court. And I think that's what blew it open late. We got a lot of open looks that we weren't going to get in the first half.
Absolutely. I think we saw it in one of the state championship games, and you brought it up today, that you obviously have headline guys that are Division I level basketball players. Will Braun to win.
Yes.
Christian Dinges, player of the year here, looks like in Class 4. Kyron Oglesby. But the unsung guys that stepped up, like we saw with LeRae Fort Chiswell, the Isaiah Baxter with 8 in the first quarter, the Javon Briscoe has made some huge threes throughout the playoffs for you. And the thing that sticks out to me, Coach, you brought it up in the press conference, the brotherhood. I know some people say that's cheesy, but it's real. You can see the genuine love that your guys have for you, you have for them, and for each other. How much did that matter with all you went through this year and in this game today against a really good opponent?
Oh, it matters more than anything you can do with the basketball.
And all the different changes you do defensive, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, for them, like, everything that you want to see exist in your program has to be developed. If you want a highly connected group, if you want a player-led team, If you want strong relationships, if you want good communicators, you have to develop that. So, I mean, we spent so much time, developing that. And, shout out to our guy, Leon, with Lead 'em Up, working with us for the last 5 years, man. Like, our guys truly bought into having the performance character that they needed to have in order to win. But, man, their relationship, their bonds, like, that's what won more than anything we could ever do with the ball.
Sure. Just want to let you run here. I appreciate the time. We brought it up, Coach, on the broadcast on NFHS that we got to halftime and there's only one turnover in a basketball game. You had one, they had none. To get to the break and your lead is 24-18. A surge could be coming, but your kids to execute what you did in the first half, come out of the locker room and then execute even better. How proud are you for them to achieve that, knowing how hard it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
The GOAT.
Absolutely. I went in and I told them at halftime, I said, hey, like, let's relax, take a deep breath here, because hopefully everyone in this room understands that, like, we can clearly win this game, right? And, like, this is what we're going to have to do. Got to clean the glass. We got to change and make things hard for them, right? Can't let 11 get going, right? We talked about all these different things we need to do, but I saved that defense for the second half that I was telling you about. And, so that's what really, I think, threw them off guard. And, they played a lot of the same style teams all year. I mean, I would say that, they maybe didn't play a team with our shooting level, but I don't know if anyone can shoot it the way we shoot it, in the state of Virginia. So, and the way that we can shoot it and how we can come off pins and flare it or stagger it or come off a zoom, I mean, they can do, Javon will, they can do high-level things. They step up today, made a few. When you got a 5, they can step out and make shots. So it really opened things up. But, yeah, I mean, just incredibly proud of them for being able to execute. But they bought into understanding that, like, all those details matter so much. Those details matter. And bringing those details to life is what's going to win you the game. And so we just got them to focus on the details, because the details are going to win them the game.
And lastly, to win the state championships never happened in Hanley's history. You beat a team with a storied tradition like Hampton. You had heard about, I know you knew coming in, we highlighted it, the failures against teams from the 757 that the school had previously. You weren't a part of all of them, but the Smithfield COVID year, the Lake Taylor game, Norcom, back in the 2000s. To get it done the way you did, what's this mean, you think? How do you kind of put it into words? Because it's kind of storybook in a way, isn't it?
Oh, there's no story that's better than this one. I mean, I say that objectively. I went to Moberg. I didn't even go to Hanley, but it was my dream to coach at Hanley, and I never would have guaranteed a state championship. The only thing I would have guaranteed is that I didn't believe there was anyone on this earth that was going to give this program more than I could give them, with my heart, my soul, everything I have, and that's what I was committed to doing. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that every single program in Virginia, from Class 1 to 6, we outworked them. And that's why we're here. And I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I told the guys, we'll go to glass. Well, because I had to make a decision at the beginning of the year. Are we going to play a bunch of teams just to go 25-0? Are we going to really test and challenge ourselves for the moment? So we went and played Oak Hill. We had Denby come up. We challenged ourselves in different ways with our schedule. And so they were more than prepared for the moment. I mean, this summer we played Westfield, lost by 1 at the buzzer at Capitol Hoops. We beat Lansdowne in a really tight one at the VHSL Live. Played Father Judge and Philly Live.
Played Petersburg. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Petersburg. 3-point game with 3 minutes to go or something. We missed Javon missed a long corner 3. They got the breakout dunk, took over momentum. But yeah, we gave them all we could have too. And so, all I've tried to do these last 6 years is, but like I said, they also know that I'm going to set the standard very high and hold them to it. And when you cast vision, guys take ownership, and they work together to bring it to life. These are the things that happen. Well, I can't even explain to. I don't even know. There might be a parade. I don't know what I'm about to walk into, but I can't explain to you what this means for this town. And, for me, and, a message to, any young coaches out there, anyone that gets a job, you just truly have to make everything about the kids. Over the course of 6 years, there's people that haven't liked decisions I've made or the way I do things or think someone else should be the coach or whatever, but you just stick true to you. Even if a kid's parents don't like what's going on with the kid, it's about the kid, not the parent. and don't take it out on the kid because the parent feels a certain way. Like, make everything about the kids. And, I just, that would be my only advice, is that believe in yourself, cast your vision, put together a system to bring it to life, and own that. And anything that's outside noise, anyone that you wouldn't call in for advice, just ignore the opinion and just stay true to your process about it.
The judges sort of a masterpiece. Congrats. Go enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
So you heard from Zach Harold-Zook of the John Hanley judges, who won the Class 4 state championship last Saturday at VC. You heard a while before that from Roger Smith of the Manor girls, and those are the numbers from Hanley's performance. 4 double-figure scores. Ed Christian Dinges leading the way with 18, Isaiah Baxter 14, Javon Briscoe, Will Brondwin 13 apiece, as the Crabbers had a rough day at the office. A tremendous season for them, but their glorious win streak gets halted by this Hanley outfit. 61-42, the final. We talk about surprises and upsets. It's not really an upset that Hanley beat Hampton, because they were preseason number 1 in the state to begin the season. In our rankings on VirginiaPreps.com, Hampton was number 2. However, the margin is what shakes you up and say, oh my goodness, I didn't see Hampton having its 26-game winning streak snapped in the fashion that it did. But Hanley did an outstanding job, and certainly that was one of the more eye-opening results from last weekend's VHSL State Basketball Championships.
It definitely got my attention, because I made a comment, even told Zach to his face, I'm going with Hampton. You're going to have to play a nearly perfect game. I didn't know they would play a nearly perfect game. Their game plan was excellent. A lot of ball control. Now, that's predicated on getting a lead to run a ball control type game where you get that team out of their defense, because Hampton is extremely good. And once they get on a roll, good luck. And he was able to do all that. He talked about came up with a defensive scheme. He mentioned this in the interview room. And we talked later about where he changed some traditional defenses, changed them up to kind of attack Hampton, which kind of made Hampton slow up a little bit, maybe contributing to their board shooting, because Hampton did not shoot the ball as well as they normally can. They didn't get as many up and downs as they normally do. But I'm going to go with the idea that Hanley had a lot to do with that. It was more Hanley winning that game the way they had to win it than Hampton, like, what are you doing? 26 in a row, and now you pick this game? Well, things happen. I'm sorry, they just happened. Their execution was there. They just weren't making shots. They got frustrated because nobody's handled them in that manner all year. Those are kids. They're going to get frustrated especially when things aren't going your way, and you're up on the biggest stage possible in high school basketball, state tournament, state championship game. So I just give a lot of credit to Zach and the kids and his program. He was tested early in the year when the one young fella got hurt. Will Braun got hurt. He had to change some things around for the team. They never missed a beat for the most part. They did lose some games early, changed the kids around, and then they picked it up. And they were peaking just at the right moment. And those kids played like gloves, a hand and a glove. They played so well together. And it's like they don't care who got the glory, who gets the glory, whatever. Everybody has a role to do, and they're there to do their role. So it's almost a perfect storm for Hanley. So, hats off to them. And I still say, and you and I argue about it, Hampton's still one of the best teams in the state. I got them no worse than top 3, and I really want to say even a 1 or a 2. I know Petersburg's up there too, but they've got nothing to be ashamed of. It's just you hate to get that far in a great season and come up second best.
No, I think they had a great season, but it was their ending was probably more disappointing that they didn't give their best account of themselves or close to it. Whereas I think in the losses for other 7-5-7 teams, Minchfield girls in Class 5, Lake Taylor boys in Class 3, Green Run boys in Class 5, Lansdowne Class 6. Did they play their best games? No. But in some of those cases, they probably got beat by a better team and or they gave a better than C, C plus, B. That was one of Hampton's worst games of the year. So that's the part that leaves it almost. I know they're thinking we wish we had given our if they had lost to Hanley by 6, 8 points, or they lost by 2 or 3. They always say, and I think this is one of those things that we will fight about this too, because it applies to the college basketball tournaments going on right now. Is it better to lose at the buzzer or better to get blown out by 26? Well, I think if you asked every kid on that Hampton team or locker room, knowing how good they are, and they are good, like you said, 26 straight, they would say, we would have but at least given ourselves a shot. Give us a chance. And they didn't really give themselves their best chance to win. They had a subpar performance. That's what I'm getting at. Whereas, some will say when they lose by a buzzer beater, I'd rather get blown out than lose that way because it stings more, it hurts more. But it hurts more because you were right there. They were never there. They only led this game, as you see the stats back up on the screen here, for 22 seconds. And again, a lot of, like you said, was Hanley's doing for sure. But I want to get your thoughts on some superlatives here. So, best player, best team, best game. We talked about best game. To me, my pick was Fort Chiswell, Luray boys, closely followed by PA and Menchville girls. Best team or most impressive team. I mean, Hanley's win was maybe as impressive as anybody. I'd say best impressive. How about best player, girls or boys? Was there one player that stood out above the rest for you?
Well, my thoughts go quickly to Jackson at Fort Chiswell with 53 points. Now, people are going to say, well, let me shoot 30 times. I'll score 50. Okay, sure. I wasn't a believer. You had told me he scored 50 first game of the year. Watch this kid. He did. And then when I saw him in warm-ups, I said, who? And then I watched him more and more. And yes, he's a volume shooter. Yes, he rebounds and goes the length of the court and scores, ignoring teammates. And I say that because hear what I said, scored. He wasn't hogging the ball and missing shots like crazy. Shooting percentage really was not that bad. I thought it was bad. Then when I looked at final stats, I said, let me shut my mouth. This is a pretty good stat line for this youngster. And his team looks like they accept the fact that he can do it. Now, where do you fit in? And because you could think this day and age, parents are probably saying, that kid shoots 92 times a game. My son doesn't even get in a game. You're going to have a lot of that fester up in a program, and that can kill a program real easy, more than an opponent. But I just thought by him, watching him do that, then I'm sitting there at the end of the game saying, this kid had 53 points. When have we seen that, or will we see it again?
33 a game this year. You see the stats. He was named the Class 1 State Player of the Year over Matthew Owens, which was a little bit of a surprise to some because Owens was a senior who's JMU bound and had a really nice career. But some of his numbers as a sophomore even are hard to ignore.
And he's only going to get better. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get better. He'll be even more experienced than what he is now. So
look at that single season. Only Mac McClung and Allen Iverson had more points in a season in VHSL history than this guy in a season.
And again, he's only a sophomore. He has 2 more years to go.
Yeah.
He's
good
going to
pitcher, too, at baseball.
Right. See, that's the other thing. What's he going? He's going to have some choices, probably in both. And where is he going to go? And time will tell on that one.
I'm going to give you 2 girls players because I think the other boys player that comes to mind is Latrell Allman from Petersburg. He didn't have the most dominating of games, but we've seen him for 4 years now get 4 rings. But Ainsley Trivette from Abingdon, what a year she had for Abingdon State. Found over 2,000 career points, more than 1,000 rebounds. She's going to NC State. 3-sport athlete, also excelled in volleyball, as you brought up during the broadcast. And then Micah Ojo at Princess Anne, just a junior. I mean, just the things she did. I said even more than her numbers. Like I told you last week on the show, on our Sunday night edition, the block she had 6 seconds into the game was a tone setter. And then she opens up the overtime with a hoop after Menchville was right there 6 seconds away. It says a lot about that. Before we take a break and hopefully have Mike DeCourcy with us here, he's scheduled to join us here in a few minutes. You see the games here today, Ed, on the screen. There they are. You got them in front of you. There's the broadcast teams for the action today. Which game are you most intrigued by today, and then I'll give you a chance to give you the game you're most intrigued by for tomorrow. We'll ask Mike DeCourcy a bunch of these questions among his thoughts on who he thought going in and how many he thought thinks now can win the national championship, what he thinks about. I'm sure you'll dig into Hubert Davis. Is his job safe at Carolina? The most fascinating game to him. We know about that game tomorrow with Kansas and St. John's we'll get to, but a lot of options here. You see on the screen there, it is Michigan versus St. Louis to start things off, A&M against Houston, TCU, Duke, High Point, Arkansas, Vandy, Nebraska. I kind of like that Vandy, Nebraska game. I think that Vandy, Nebraska game could go down on the wire.
I agree with you, and I'm keeping eyes on Nebraska. I'm as a wise person once said, don't be surprised if Nebraska wins that game. I know Vanderbilt's very good, but don't be surprised. A lot of people sleeping on Nebraska all year. Another game that I'm looking at hard, back in the beginning of the year when you asked me, okay, let's go with a surprise team. Who do you think could possibly hoist the championship at the end? I said Louisville. I had a feeling that, and they really haven't had the season I thought they would have. Could they put it together against a pretty good Michigan State team and be able to do something? But I think Louisville, if I'm not mistaken, is battling some injuries.
Yep. Mikael Brown, as we mentioned earlier, him being out the point guard spot is a big, big deal for them. And then tomorrow you see the matchups on the screen. Iowa, Florida, Utah State, Arizona, UCLA, UConn, Texas Tech, Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, St. John's, Kansas, Kentucky, Iowa State, Miami, Purdue. It's hard to get away from that Kansas and St. John's game, isn't it?
Yeah, Kansas, St. John's. I mean, you got Pitino, Bill Self, two Hall of Famers, and two storied programs too. So, I'm of course, who I'm rooting for, and I'm hoping, and a lot of people self-explode. So let's go St. John's. The other one I would probably want to look at, I keep getting drawn towards that Iowa-Florida game. I don't know why. I was not a showstopper type team, but
no, but they got a pro on that team. If you watched them closely, if you haven't, you'll see them tomorrow. But I'll tell you what, Bennett Sturts, he can really dial it up, and he's got a pro game coming in from Drake.
Yeah, I that's the one I'm looking at. And then, Tennessee and UVA. UVA has a great chance to win that game.
Yeah.
A great chance to win that game and move on. And did we think Virginia would be this far at the beginning?
No.
And back there in October, November?
Not at all. Not at all. Well, we'll take a time out. We'll come back with more here on 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV, as we'll be joined by Mike DeCourcy. He's going to chat with us about everything in college basketball, sporting news, Fox Sports, Big Ten Network. It's all on the way right here on 757 Sports Talk. After this quick timeout, back in just a moment.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there. Because here, you are more. One Life Fitness.
Portco is your local nonprofit organization dedicated to economic empowerment through employment for people with disabilities. We focus on abilities, not limitations, providing on-the-job vocational support. Find your pathway to employment. Contact us or learn more at portco.org.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
At Rush Soccer, our love of the game and the community we create doesn't stop when we leave the pitch or when the season ends. We are more than an individual player, team, club, or league. We are a truly global community of athletes, parents, coaches, professionals, and fans. We believe that youth sports and the pathway to a lifelong love of soccer have the power to form deep, meaningful connections that will fundamentally shape our players and those in our community. We believe that what we feel is the key to what we can achieve. Feel the pride. Feel the confidence. Feel the legacy. Feel the connection. Feel the trust. Feel the acceptance. Feel the purpose. Feel the difference. Feel the rush.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And we welcome you back to Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. And we have a special guest with us, Coach. He is the columnist for Sporting News. You can also check out his work on Fox Sports and the Big Ten Network. We are now delighted to be joined by Mike DeCourcy on the program as the madness of March rolls on. Mike, thanks for stopping by. A couple of neat days of basketball in the books, and your takeaways here as we get ready for round of 32 action.
Well, I thought that the first 2 days were a lot of fun. I know that when there aren't as many upsets, there are some who decry the absence of those events. But we came close on several. There were a lot of highly competitive games. I mean, Kentucky needed a near miracle in order to survive Santa Clara and advance to the next round. So the idea that we didn't have enough upsets, I think, is overplayed. And I think we need to understand why there are fewer such games. And there are multiple components of that. And obviously, one of them, and no one would deny this, is that there are a lot more mid-major players who are ascending to the high major level, and that is giving the opportunity for those teams to be more empowered and for the mid-major teams to have maybe a bit less talent available to them. Although I did point out in some other circumstances that you look at a player like Evan Mahaffey, who was a high major player for 3 years or more and played this last season for Akron and had a nice year on a terrific team in the MAC that played in the NCAA tournament and was very competitive in their game. So it does swing both ways still, but it does, I think, obviously lean more toward the high major level. That's a factor, and I think everyone's acknowledged that. But what they haven't acknowledged is that the high majors are empowered by a couple of other things. One is a lot of teams that used to be mid-majors are now in high major conferences. Xavier, Creighton, those teams in particular. Gonzaga is no longer a mid-major no matter where they play. They are now one of the power conference, power teams in basketball, whatever conference they play in, it doesn't matter. So a lot of teams that used to be pulling these upsets are now either trying to get in or trying to avoid them. And so that's a factor as well. And then the last component that isn't discussed nearly enough, is that you look at the level of talent that is now retained by college basketball in general. And I think that includes all levels. Obviously, the Power Five would be the most effective. But the level of talent that's retained among players who, even 5 years ago, certainly 7 years ago, were saying, I got to make some money playing this game. My career is finite. I'm making I'm getting a scholarship and I'm getting $6,000 a year or whatever it was in cost of attendance payments, and that's just not enough. I've got to go make some money. And so they were leaving college basketball before they were ready, or maybe they would never be quite ready for the NBA, but they still could accomplish something in college. Now they're fighting to stay in college. As you know, the court systems are overworked with players fighting to stay in college, fighting to get a 6th year, a 5th year, whatever it might be, because there's money in it now. So that makes the teams at the top better. I use as an example Zubi Ejiofor, who had a phenomenal year for St. John's. What are the odds he plays a 4th season at St. John's in an era only 5-7 years removed from where we stand now?
No, you make some great points, Mike. And to follow that up, I think of Armando Bacot at North Carolina, another guy that stayed in school because he didn't have the NBA draft stock that maybe years ago would have been different for him. Before I let my partner jump in here, and he's going to ask you, I'm sure, about UNC's game with VCU and the status of Hubert Davis. But 4 of those double-digit seeds that we have left are from the SEC, and 10th seeded Texas A&M and 11th seeded Texas, to go with the others in High Point at 12, who was a trendy upset pick over Wisconsin in the round of 64, and 11 seed in VCU had that 19-point rally from Carolina. So now that we're at the round of 32, I want to know from you, because you did the bracket breakdown. People could see it all the time on Fox Sports Sporting News and on the Big Ten Network. You were crunching the numbers. Going into the tournament, how many teams did you realistically think could win the championship, and how many are you at right now that you think can realistically hoist the trophy on that Monday night in April?
Yeah, I had probably a month or two ago, I thought there were more than there were. And a lot of the teams that have been eliminated from that idea, I mean, they certainly haven't been eliminated. I mean, well, BYU has, but most of them are still alive, but they've been eliminated in my mind from the possibility of pursuing that. And that's been the product of injury. Injury has had a more profound impact on this tournament, this NCAA tournament. My first NCAA tournament covering was 1987, I believe. I believe that's the first one I ever covered. My first Final Four was 1988. And I've never seen anything quite like this in terms of the injury component. North Carolina with Caleb Wilson, a totally different team. The literal most consistent player in America as a freshman, scored 20 points, averaged 20 points. Okay, so most of the time when you see a guy average 20, it's because he'll get 35 one night and 18 the other. Caleb scored 20 almost every time he took the floor. He was amazing. And him being gone really impacted Carolina's season. JT Toppin at Texas Tech took them out of the conversation. What happened to Richie Saunders at BYU totally diminished the Cougars, and they just couldn't get past it, even to defeat in the first round a not overwhelming Texas team. So all of that has played a role in why at this point, I think it's only 5 or 6 that meet the standard necessary to win it. A lot of people are going to look at particular teams that I would exclude from that group, Purdue being the most obvious, and say, hey, look, they're hot, they're good, they're talented, they can win it. Well coached, yes, all those things are true. But I don't think they're talented enough to survive 6. Do I think they could win 4? Yes, although they're in the worst possible position to do that, because I think their number 1, Arizona, is the best in the tournament, especially as regards the injuries I mentioned. I still think, yes, Michigan could win it, but I believe in them much less than I did before LJ Kaysen. I still think Duke can win it, but I believe in them less before Patrick Gongba and in particular Caleb Foster became absent through injury, and they were at least slightly diminished as a team. I do think that you have to have certain components to win this thing, and if you look over the last 4 decades or so, pretty much every champion meets those standards, and it begins, and this is why I exclude Purdue, it begins with those obvious NBA draft picks, the guys that are going to go in the first round, and they're going to make a difference at that level to a degree, but they really make a difference in the NCAA tournament when the games get most difficult.
Excellent insight there from Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News, Fox Sports, Big Ten Network, as we talk about the NCAA Basketball Tournament round of 32 action this weekend. Another guy that's also on the shelf, potentially Joshua Jefferson from Iowa State, Ed.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to make any assumptions about Josh, but they were a team that I had picked to go to the Final Four, and that I would put in that subset of teams that could win it. Until we know what his injury is, how the severity of his injury. Honestly, what I heard from Iowa State on Friday was almost encouraging, because when I saw the way his foot twisted, I had a fear of a foot fracture, and there would obviously there would be no way for him to recover in time to play in this tournament. Whereas a sprained ankle, it quite possibly, and they did not dictate the severity, whether it was high or low, etc. It quite possibly won't return because of a sprained ankle, but at least it puts you in the realm of a possibility that he could go again. Whereas, like I said, a foot fracture or an ankle fracture or something like that, and he would clearly be out of this and preparing for the draft.
No doubt. Ed?
First of all, Mike, pleasure to have you on. I've been a big fan of your work. I know you weren't back with Sporting News back in the 70s, but as a little tyke, the Sporting News was the first sports paper that I got on a weekly basis as a newspaper form, all sports, the different sports, and of course, with basketball, football, and baseball. And in my brother's attic back in Pennsylvania, I probably have from 1970 all the way, probably over 1,000 copies still up there of the Sporting News. I loved that. As a 12-year-old kid, I would run to the store to get that every Friday, Sporting News, to make sure I got the owner of the store, to start saving me a copy so they wouldn't all be gone, because I was a kid. He said, "You're the only kid that gets this. Everybody else is an adult." But that was my first foray into sports. It's the Sporting News. So when I heard that Matt got you on, I was like, we got Mike on? Mike's big business. He's top guy. When I heard Sporting News, I always go back to that flash. So again, congrats for coming on and the work you've done in the past. Really a big fan of it. Now, here's my question. And I want to know where you sit on this. Matt and I argue a lot, and he's usually wrong. I'm a proponent of seeing the smaller conferences, 1s and 2s, get in. Then I'm at the mega conference, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, number 5 or 6. Because how is the little guy ever going to get a chance? Football, I was on the bandwagon of bringing in those smaller teams because they won their conference. Do they not have a right to play for a national championship? And if you say no, so what's the incentive of winning a conference? You're never going to, they're going to get blown out by Ohio State, Michigan, they'll blow them out. So in basketball, we know it's a little different. But what is your perspective on, is that another way maybe, Mike, we bring in more of those lower level teams so they have a chance? Or do we stay with a power team that everybody wants to see?
Well, I think, first of all, it needs to be understood that there are 68 bids in the NCAA tournament, and let's hope it stays there. Let's hope that we don't ruin this deal by changing it. It's the most popular sporting event in America relative to the sport it completes. Like the Masters is really popular compared to regular golf, but not by the factor that this tournament is. The Super Bowl is really popular relative to football, but not to the level that this is. This takes people from being marginal fans or non-fans into the realm of being fans in this 1 month, and it takes obviously the passionate fans to a level even greater than that. So we have a perfect system as it is now in terms of the number and size of the field. I've been involved in picking brackets now, projecting brackets for 7 years at Fox Sports, and for 6 of those, we've had a tournament. The first year I was on that, of course, was unfortunate in 2020 that we had to have it canceled. And in that 6 years, I've learned a lot more even than I already knew about the process. And the first thing that I will say is that numerically, we now have, with the way things have come to be defined, 25 to 26 mid-major leagues. Depends on how you feel about the Mountain West. Mountain West is kind of in a sort of narrow margin in between the two, but let's say it's 25. That's the number, and we keep the Mountain West with the powers, even though it's probably not quite there. Let's do that. So it's 25. I did the math on this. Out of 68, they get roughly 37% of the field at the mid and low major level. But if you look at the wins above bubble rankings that are strictly about, did you win a game? Okay, who did you play? How good are they? And did you play it at home or on a neutral court or on the road? No margin of victory, none of that. No running up the score. You can win by 100, doesn't matter. It's still the same as if you win by 1. And that ranking, 22 of the 68 teams would fit into those conferences. So it's 22% of the 68 would fit into those conferences. If you look at Ken Pomeroy, which does incorporate that power concept, how dominant are you? How much are you controlling those teams you play? How efficient are you, et cetera? That metric, it's 18%. So the mid-majors are already getting a larger percentage of the field than they represent in terms of the high-quality teams that there are in NCAA Division I basketball. So I think they're already getting I think it's a fair deal because, as you said, there's no real championship unless you have automatic qualification. There's no sport now, really. Now that college football has gotten beyond that and at least offers one position to the group of 5 teams, college football no longer has that concept where you get to the end of the year and we say who's good. It was the most ridiculous construction in sports, and now that's gone. Now, if you win the ACC, if you win the Big Ten, if you win the Big 12, and if you are the best of the non-major teams, you automatically get in. So you know what you have to do at the start of the year to be entered into the field. So college football doesn't have that. College basketball has never had that. They've never had that phony concept of we decide who's good enough on all cases. If you win the Big South, as High Point did, you get in. They can't keep you out unless you're ineligible. And that's good for college basketball. But to say I'd rather see a team like Winthrop make it, it's not that there's no rationale for that. That's just personal preference. And then we're into that football realm. The teams that made the field from the major conferences that weren't super successful, like Missouri or Texas, or I'm trying to think, SMU. Those teams, they all met the standard of qualification relative to their seasons. They didn't meet it by much, and that's why Texas and SMU were both required to play the extra game, but they met the standard. And in the case of Miami met the standard to be included immediately after they lost their first game. It was interesting. There was a lot of conversation after Miami lost to UMass in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament about whether they would be included. You didn't hear any of that conversation from me or Joe Lenardi or any of the hobbyists who do the bracket projections very well. We all knew they were in. The conversation was all coming from people who don't know how that process works and aren't interested, but want to have an opinion anyway. Whereas they could, like you guys, call me and I'm not saying I'm the leading expert in the selection process, but I'm one of them. So if you weren't calling me, you were calling Joe, great. If you weren't calling me and you were calling my buddies at Delphi Bracketology, who does it kind of on the side as a hobby and has fun with it and does it great, it doesn't matter who you talk to, but you have to understand the process, how it works, and speak to the people who know how it works so that you aren't out there saying, well, Miami, Ohio might be on the bubble. Now, they were never on the bubble. They were 37th in wins above bubble, which was around 8 to 9 spots from the back of the field. When they got into seeding, then they used the predictive metrics more that I talked about before, the power metrics, and Miami didn't measure up as well because they won a ton of 1-point games. And so they said, okay, go ahead, go to Dayton. I didn't have a problem with that. I would have, especially with the way the field assembled itself. We lost a spot or two, and Miami went from probably not having to play in that game to having to play in that game. I think in the end it was good for them to play in that game because they went out and handled SMU, were able to celebrate when it was over. If they just walked on the floor and played Tennessee, they would have had that game. They weren't good enough to play in it because they didn't have They were missing a starter, A, and B, don't have the physical power of a Tennessee. There might have been other sixes they matched up better with. Tennessee was just the wrong team for them to play. So they got a little glory, and they got to show that they belonged, and then they lost like the majority of 11 seeds do.
Good point. Good point. Ed?
Well, the only other thing now, I hate talking about coaches' jobs or whatever, and Matt alluded to it earlier. VCU comes from way behind 19, knocks off the Carolina team. Yeah, injuries. Yeah, you mentioned Caleb Williams. And Hubert Davis has had a little bit of side eye to him in the last couple of years. And now, from what I'm hearing, is a lot of people in Chapel Hill are saying, it might be time for a change. Do you think Hubert stays on? Do you think this is enough to that he may have to get out? Your perspective on the Carolina situation?
Yeah, I think that I think Hubert, first of all, the roster construction of this team was not ideal. The roster construction of most of the past several teams has not been ideal. So I think because of the Caleb injury, the roster construction of this team, while not ideal, might have been sufficient to at least produce, say, a Sweet 16 type season, if not a little better, had he been healthy. But I think that this needs to be a lesson. And I would say that his window is closing. I think it's reasonable to assume that more results like this would lead to a change at any program at that level. The window is closing, and he needs to learn from how this season went. They weren't good enough. Even with Caleb, they weren't what Carolina wants to be. Bringing in Henry Vasar was a great move, especially and being able to be the successful team to recruit Caleb Wilson, who, goodness gracious, would have made any team in America so much better, 30 to 40% better just in one position because he's that good. They made some really good moves, but they weren't physically tough enough. They didn't have enough big bodies off the bench. I mean, like I mentioned that Tennessee team. Look how much physical power they have in the front court. Now I know you're not going to get the young man Carey to after his brother went to Duke. He's probably not going to Carolina. That doesn't happen very often. But someone like that needs to be on your team. You got to have some physical power. It just is so it's so useful to have that. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone as big and strong and bulky as Carey is, but someone who can bring that physicality to the front court didn't exist on the Carolina roster, and that has to be changed. The wing play, I don't think they're long enough, dynamic enough in that circumstance, and they may have addressed some of that with some of the young people that they're recruiting for next year, but that has to be improved. I do think that next year will be a very important year for him. This year wasn't good enough and might not have been good enough even if Caleb got hurt, but it was on track to be closer to good enough after they beat Duke on the buzzer beater. They went down to Miami with a chance to win not long after that. It was probably a week later. And they went down with a chance to win down there. And I think they might have been successful if he doesn't get hurt in that game. And then maybe February and March go completely differently. And the reasonable approach is to say, okay, we're going to do this again, but you got to do it better, or else we might not do it again after that.
Yeah, some spot-on analysis here from Mike DeCourcy. Before I let you run, and our time is short here, I want to throw at you, and you bring up about just the roster construction, UNC needing to bolster that rebounding, which they were known for, under Roy Williams. It leads me to one of the teams that I think is part of maybe the most fascinating matchup we have for the round of 32 here, Mike. Give me your thought. Kansas taking on St. John's in San Diego. That's a compelling game in the 4-5 that has people buzzing and fascinated by it. How about you? What one or two games are you most intrigued by this week? Or this weekend, I should say, in the round of 32, whether it's today or tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll address that one. I think that right now, St. John's is a more together, more balanced, more cohesive team than Kansas is. But Kansas has Darren Peterson, who is certainly the most talented player left in this tournament. He and A.J. DeBonsa, probably the two most talented players in college basketball this season altogether. But now that AJ's home, Darren's the best that's left. And Cameron Boozer's obviously terrific, but if you look at what Darren can do on the floor, can completely change a game. So I look at that game and I say to myself, what does St. John's do to slow him down? They have multiple players that they can play against him. Bryce Hopkins, Dylan Mitchell. They have multiple players that size. Ian Jackson can come off the bench and play in that matchup some, so they don't necessarily have to get worn down by dealing with Peterson. And there does seem to be sort of a fissure there. It's one of the really fascinating elements of this Darren Peterson story is that when Kansas had him, earlier in the season, they seemed to have at least beginning of a handle on how to play with him and play together. And then when they didn't have him, they found a way to play without him. And then when they kind of had him, he'd play half or something like that. They found a way to be successful in that realm too. But now that they have him basically full-time, I mean, he's played full-time minutes now for 6 or 7 games in a row. In that circumstance, they haven't been successful at all. I mean, they've won here and there, but even the Cal Baptist game turned into a tension game. So it's really interesting to see that now that he's a full-time player, they've developed real issues. I'm not sure exactly why, but St. John's opportunity is to take advantage of whatever issues develop.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. Should be interesting stuff here with what's on deck here in the next rounds of games. Mike DeCourcy, our guest. We look forward to getting you back on the program here, my friend. It was great chatting with you. I know Ed wants to have that debate with you too that we have on the show, which is the better league between the Big 12 or the Big 10, because he's been saying all year long he likes the Big 10. I've got the Big 12. If one of those leagues gets 3 or 4 teams in the Final Four, that may settle it, right?
Well, I got to go quickly, but I will say that right now, as we stand this year, I think depth-wise, the Big 10 was a little better, but at the top, it's the Big 12. Their strongest teams are the strongest in the sport right now.
Good stuff. Well, hey, follow his work. Excellent stuff in
Thanks, Matt.
Sports Big Ten Network. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll get you on again soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
That's Mike DeCourcy, our guest here on 757 Sports Talk. We appreciate him giving us almost a half hour of his time. Outstanding insight and coverage. He is tremendous with the knowledge and the insight there on everything in college basketball. He covered a lot of different angles there, and that St. John's in Kansas game tomorrow it's the one that people are circling. It's the biggie on the docket. But a lot of games getting ready to get underway here, so we're going to take one last time out before we bid adieu on this particular program and get Ed's parting shots. Maybe do a little rapid fire on the picks as we close out this episode of 757 Sports Talk before Ed moseys on down the street to go see the Hornets playing. Who are they playing again? The Grizzlies? Is what you got on the docket tonight? Is that right? Hornets and Grizz? Yep. You'll have a lot of buzz. You'll have a lot of buzz in that building too. See what I did there? Buzz in the building? Get it? Buzz building.
You got it.
We'll come back and put the ribbon on this episode. Stick around. It's Cova Sports TV.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there, because here you are more. One Life Fitness.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us. And the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
Portco is your local nonprofit organization dedicated to economic empowerment through employment for people with disabilities. We focus on abilities, not limitations, providing on-the-job vocational support. Find your pathway to employment. Contact us or learn more at portco.org.
Congratulations to those who took our this season, and thank you for the support of the Virginia Hatfield program.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
All right, Ed, as we give you some picks to close out this episode of the show, do you want to take them from bracket order, top of the bracket to the bottom of the bracket, or go in order of how they're going to be played in terms of times today, tomorrow? What do you want to do here?
Easiest for you.
Easiest for me. All right, well, I can share it on the screen here and do it this way for you. There you see Duke and TCU squaring off in the round of 32 later today. Blue Devils 12.5-point favorites in that East region. What do you think? Duke to win and cover, or do you think the Horned Frogs would give them a scare?
I think they definitely give them a scare. Now, question is how long? First half, middle of the second half, or all the way to the end of the game? I think Duke wakes up on this. I don't think they don't win by double digits. I think Duke wins and TCU covers.
You heard what Mike DeCourcy had to say about the game tomorrow involving the Johnnies, the Red Storm, and their opponent, which is Kansas. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. They have not been consistent, as Mike said, with Darren Peterson in and out of the lineup. We know he's the projected number one pick in the draft. But what do you think here, as Kansas is a 3.5-point dog as the 4 seed? St. John's a 3.5-point favorite as the 5 seed. They got off to a hot start, a torrid start in their round of 64 win over Northern Iowa. Never looked back in that game.
Well, as far as the seeds go, I think they should have probably flipped this at the beginning of the tournament. Put St. John's as a 4, Kansas as a 5, because of sometimes Kansas being the different type of team that they are. I'm just a big Rick Pitino fan, and I do like Bill Self also. I'm going to go St. John's in a close one.
We know about the injuries that Mike brought up earlier. Mr. DeCourcy, Mikel Brown out for Louisville, Michigan State, who, by the way, I know our pal Mike Desmond, coach of the Seahawks, he'll be locked in. He'll have a beverage. He'll have some popcorn. He'll have probably more than a beverage watching the Spartans, his former Seahawk, Jordan Scott, taking on Louisville, Michigan State with Izzo, Sparty. A lot of people have them coming out of this bracket here. We call this the bracket of death because, you're some heavyweights in this bracket. UCLA, UConn, Duke. Oh, my gosh. What do you think for that game where Sparty is favored in this matchup, Edward, on Saturday, today, 2:45. 5.5-point favorite are the Spartans. 5.5. Big number.
We acknowledge Mike. We acknowledge you. Okay?
We acknowledge you, Mike.
Yeah, he's going to ask us to do that. And be cool on the beverages. Save some for some other people so we don't get crazy text messages.
He's going to get ice cream, cotton candy. He's going to go bananas for this game. I know he is.
I just don't want to get.
He'll be texting us play-by-play if Jordan makes a good play or bad play.
Yeah, and hey, Jordan Scott, hats off to him. He's playing a lot. He is a more than just a regular contributor for that ball club.
Did we ever find out why he got nicknamed Fuzzy by him? We got to find that out from Desmond. Text him that later today. Find out why he nicknamed him Fuzzy.
Yeah, we'll have to get that. I'm going to go Michigan State. I want Louisville because I like that Kelsey. Of course,
And you had Louisville in your Final Four before the season, remember?
Yeah, I had Louisville in the Final Four. So I want to say I should stick with them, but I think Michigan State, this is Tom Izzo's baby here. When he gets into these tournaments like this, and then all of a sudden he's in a Sweet 16, Elite 8, people are like, what? He finds a way to get in there. I think they edge Louisville out in this. I wouldn't mind seeing Louisville win.
I want to see Michigan State and UCLA. You want to know why? Because Xavier Booker, who's a above-the-rim finisher for UCLA, playing a more meaningful role now that Tyler Bilodeau is out, can go up against his old team in the Sweet 16. I don't think we'll get that. I think Michigan State will hold on for dear life because they are a little more athletic along the baseline with Cohen Carr and company, Jackson Kohler. Jeremy Fears at point guard. He's feast or famine sometimes for them, but I think MSU pulls it out. Now, UCLA is going to need a big effort from Donovan Dent. We'll see if Bilodeau can go. Again, one of those many guys that's been dinged up with injuries. What do you think about them? And UConn, who had to sweat it out against Furman, wasn't an easy game for the Huskies, but they are known for their three-point shooting with Mullins and with Alex Caravan, and solo ball. However, it was Tyrus Reed who had a monster game. Did he ever for them to survive Furman, as Tyrus Reed became just the third guy ever to have a stat line of 31 and 27 in NCAA tournament lore, joining Elvin Hayes, who did it twice. I mean, you're on a list with Elvin Hayes with 30 plus and 25 plus. You're doing something right, but can they get that from Reed again? I'm not sure they will need it, but man, that's tough.
Boy, you mentioned Elvin Hayes. I haven't heard that name in a while. You young ones out there, look it up. Elvin Hayes was a tremendous player, pro and college. A tremendous player from way, way back in the time. But, it's funny because a lot of people, I think including you, had UCLA losing to South Florida, and they did, or Central Florida. They did.
Correct.
And now that you got them in here, you got UConn, who I thought would destroy Furman, and they struggled a little bit with them. I think UConn gets it back together. I think UCLA, if Den doesn't play for UCLA, I don't see him beat UConn. They even have a chance to beat UConn. I think UConn takes care of this, and I tell you what, I think this will be a 10-point win, UConn.
Ooh, you say a 10-point win for the Huskies, the Hungry Huskies, as they once were dubbed by, I think it was Kemba Walker during one of their championship runs. They won back-to-back with Danny Hurley, then lost last year to eventual national champion Florida in the round of 32. Huskies are favored by 4.5 in this particular spot. And by the way, we mentioned it earlier, some of our comments are coming up, some are not on the stream, some are having trouble. Our man Woody Wagner having some difficulties. He actually asked me, and I'll answer it here on the show. It's not coming up on the screen. He sent me a private message. Do I think Petersburg had the state's toughest team for boys basketball? Yes, I do. I do. And Latrell Allman is going to Oklahoma State. He'll be missed for them. Oklahoma State's not in the tournament, but we turned it down to the East Regional to now the regional that UConn ran into a team a year ago in Florida, as I just mentioned, in the South. They're taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. You think this is a dangerous game, Edward? Gators against the Hawkeyes are favored by 10.5, but they have shooters and Sturts. And the Gators guards have been a little bit iffy. They got blown up by Vanderbilt. However, they didn't look back at all against Prairie View A&M. And that front line with Condon and Huff and those guys, they can really ball and hoop it up. I think they will cover this against Iowa. I disagree with you. I think they'll win this by 15.
I think I think Florida wins it, but I'm going to say it'll be a little closer than people think. I think Iowa covers it.
Okay. Vanderbilt with a guy from the Commonwealth of Virginia who was a record setter, VHSL all-time scorer. We're talking about Tyler Nickel taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Vandy and Nebraska, who got its first ever NCAA tournament win, coming on later today. Nebraska is a 1.5-point pup. I like the Huskers and Hoiberg's group to get it done. I think they'll hit enough outside shots and hold off Vandy with Tyler Nickel.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, too. I think Nebraska will be that team that can get a little further than people thought. They've had a great year, and I didn't think they would even have the year that they're having. They won their first ever, in the first round, their first ever NCAA tournament game. Now I look for them to win another one here.
I think rink mass can be the difference there, although we know Mr. Tyler Tanner, can help out in a big way with Nickel. Early on, I see it's already started. St. Louis and Michigan. Billikens lead by 2 on the Wolverines. Uh-oh. Is it time to get nervous? This game just started. Not nervous. Not yet. We moved down on the bracket here. You have in the South Regional in Houston, Cougars trying to get to the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Right down the road, they're going to take on Texas A&M, while VCU, Ed's already said Illinois is going to pummel VCU. The spread is 11.5. I think the Illini will get a backdoor cover. They could have a chance to blow a big lead. They've been doing that a lot this year. They're more of a finesse team than a powerful, physical, brute team. Whereas in this A&M Houston game, I think Houston will exercise the demons, I should say. Not demons. Exercise the demons. One of the differences for them, I think, Kingston Flemings, this team's a little more offensively minded. He's one of those great freshmen they had to go with Emmanuel Sharp and Milos Uzan. They have Sanak inside a rebound. They're not as defensively rock solid as they were last year. They had Jawan Roberts and some of those guys, but I do think they will hold A&M off. I think A&M will have trouble getting stops in transition, and I think Houston will get the victory. 10.5 might be a tricky cover, though, so I could see A&M getting the backdoor cover.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Illinois by at least 10 over VCU. I hope VCU wins, and I think Houston wins a close one against A&M.
Okay. Ed will not be watching any of this because he'll be watching the Hornets and Grizzlies. Why, I have no earthly idea, but hey, you do what you do. On the other side of the bracket here with the West Regional, San Jose is where they're trying to get to. Arizona's taking on Utah State. You know how much I love me some Utah State. They can shoot it. They can score it inside. And they ended up having to win a tussle with Villanova because they were up, they got down, and then they recovered in that game. I actually think Utah State is going to push Arizona to the brink. 12.5-point spread tomorrow. But I'm telling you right now, remember this name for Utah State. They have a guy named Mason Falslev, but the one who I think is going to give them problems is MJ Collins, 6'4" guard who can score it from distance and inside the arc. He's going to have a big game. Those freshmen are great for Arizona. Braden Burries, we know about, of course, in addition to Braden Burries, they have Cole Peak. I think Zona is going to be in for a dogfight. They'll win it, but give me Utah State for the cover.
Give me Arizona by at least 10.
All right, he's got Pete and Burries going off, I guess, in that one. Bottom part of the bracket. Well, I'm sorry, stay up here. High Point, Arkansas. John Calipari's Razorbacks, led by Darius Acuff, who is certainly in that conversation for Player of the Year, and a lot of people think he should be going higher in the draft, even with that rank, that level that DeBonsa and Peterson are projected. The Razorbacks of Arkansas taking on a High Point. Last game tonight, 9:45 Eastern. So when Ed's done partying and going to all his different establishments, he might be able to see the last 5 minutes of it, ladies and gents. High Point's an 11.5-point dog. Is that too much? I love the over in this game, Ed. It's 169.5. This game could be 99-85.
I think it's high scoring. I think Arkansas does take it. High Point would be playing a bigger version of themselves in this one. I'd go Arkansas by, again, at least 10.
Okay. Texas and Gonzaga. Longhorns, a trendy pick here against the Zags, who did not look great. They did not look great at all in their game that they had to sweat out against Kennesaw State. The Zags against Texas, who's trying to win her third NCAA tournament game just this year. 6.5-point favorite for the Zags. I think the Zags will end up having a better second half, slow start, and get the dub. What do you think?
I think Texas gets this. I think Texas gets
Wow.
I want to see Gonzaga go. I just got that feeling Texas is a little bit on a roll. They're going to exploit some of that lack of size for Gonzaga. I'm going to go Texas in a close one.
By the way, Gene Jones has got the comment working on Facebook. He says, St. John's, baby. Did I see that picture right? He was in a picture. Was it with BU with Rick Pitino? Did I see that picture right, Gino? I think I saw that this week. That picture floored me.
That's the 5-star gang. Yep.
Yeah, like a young Ed Young back in his day, what he looked like. We go down the bracket. I know Gino's getting a laugh out of that. Miami. What's that?
I was a hellion in my younger days.
The Hurricanes, in your younger days, you still are. The Hurricanes taking on Purdue. You heard what DeCourcy said about Purdue. Thinks they're really close. They don't quite have probably enough athletes, but Braden Smith now Shout out to him. He breaks the Bobby Hurley assist record. That's a great job. And he didn't do it for 5-6 years. It wasn't one of those fake records. He did it legitimately here. Purdue against Miami, who's got athletes, and what a job in year one Jay Lucas has done here. We know about his name, the background, John Lucas. What do you think about the former Duke assistant leading the Canes tomorrow? First game on Sunday, 7.5-point pup against Purdue. Do the Boilers cover, or do you have the Canes getting the cover and perhaps an upset?
I'm going to go Purdue, but is anybody talking about Miami or Florida?
No.
I didn't hear the national guys talking about them much. I had Missouri beating them in the first round, and obviously wrong. But I'm going to go Purdue. Close game. Won't be surprised if Miami wins.
They got a couple of big transfers, Malik Renew from Indiana and Trey Donaldson, who obviously played at Auburn, that have been experienced in big games and tournaments, but they're not as, they're not even getting as much fanfare as that Miami team a few years ago that Jim Larrañaga led, that got to the Final Four led by Jordan Miller in that Elite Eight game. They obviously had Nigel Pack and some other players on that team that were Isaiah Wong, more ballyhooed than Miller, but Miller out of Loudoun Valley, and now the LA Clippers had that amazing Elite Eight game against Texas that helped Coach L get to his second career Final Four. The other one coming in 2006 at George Mason. And Purdue's in action. Michigan's in action right now. They got a slim lead on St. Louis. I forgot what the line was coming in, but I got Michigan winning this game by 12 today. How about you? They're up by 3 right now, 13-10 at the under 16 break.
I got Michigan double digit.
Double digits, he says. Double digits after St. Louis. The Billikens put up 102 on the board against Georgia. Ed's still looking for the Bulldogs out there where they went. Texas Tech and Alabama tomorrow night. Bama's one of those teams that if they're hitting 3-point shots, look out. If they're not, they don't play a lick of defense. Now, I will tell you this. I watched a lot of this game, and I think he's going to be a tremendous, tremendous pro. That Bama, their game with Hofstra and Speedy Claxton's group. But remember this name, LeBaron Philon. I think he's going to be an awesome pro for them. I know Brandon Miller was a number 2 pick in the draft with the Hornets a few years back. I think Philon's going to be a better pro. Watching how he moves, he shoots. He's even got a little injury. You wouldn't know it. He is smooth. As smooth as a baby's bottom, as they like to say. He's a player. Don't shake your head. He's a player. Texas Tech without Obi Toppin, this is where it's trouble for them. Did I say Obi Toppin? I meant JT Toppin. You know which Toppin I meant. Obi's his brother. Christian Anderson, he's a facilitator, but I think Bama will eke it out. The spread is interesting. The spread for this game is 1.5 Texas Tech. I'm surprised there's a slight favor. How about you?
I am too, but I would not be surprised they win the game because you're right. Alabama, when they're on their game, they're great to watch. When they're not, you scratch your head like, how could a team that talented not win? Well, they don't really put a lot of effort into their defensive side of it. I'm gonna go Texas Tech. I'm gonna go Texas Tech in the close.
Okay, he's gonna go up on me. Tennessee, Virginia, 6:10 Eastern on TNT tomorrow. You have the Vols with that front line that's imposing, Akpara and Carey and Nate Ament. By the way, we love Ament from Virginia. Highland School leads them in rebounding. Jacoby Gillespie, the guard. But Virginia, DeRitter, the one that stirs the drink for them in a lot of ways. I just wonder if Virginia's going to be up for the physicality that Tennessee's going to bring on the backboards. And the spread right now, the 6th seed in Tennessee against the 3 seed Virginia. 6th seed is a slight 1.5-point favorite. I'd love to see UVA win this game. I just think Tennessee presents some matchup problems. Although Rick Barnes can be a little sketchy in these games down the stretch. It's going to be a matter of if Virginia's defense can, I think, put the handcuffs on Gillespie. If they can keep Gillespie out of the paint and not getting some open shots from perimeter, Tennessee does not score it well in the half-court end. They're an offensive rebounding team, but I think Virginia's offense is actually more efficient than Tennessee. I just think this is going to be one where the Vols end up putting Virginia in some foul trouble and living at the line and finding a way to grind it out. But it would not surprise me in the least if UVA got it done because they have been a great story, and I think Ryan Odom can coach his tail off. I really do.
Yeah, I'm pulling root for Virginia for sure. I got Tennessee probably by 6 in this game. But I would like to see Virginia win it. And Ryan Odom's done a tremendous job with Virginia.
Yep, he really has. And then you have Kentucky, Iowa State, our final game we look at, which is 2:45 tomorrow. Otega Owa with that heroic shot. We know Iowa State with Jefferson might not play. Cyclones are a 4.5-point favorite after opening up at 5.5. Lions going down. Can Kentucky have a second-grade effort is the big question here. That one's an intriguing matchup tomorrow. It really is.
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards Iowa State. Iowa State was my darling of last year. I thought they would get to the Final Four. I'm going to go with Iowa State in this game, but maybe that buzzer beater by Kentucky has spurred them on, and they'll play even with more fortitude in this game against Iowa State. But I'll go Iowa State probably by 7.
They're a little bit like Bama. I think their offense can be high octane, but defensively I have some concerns for them, to say the least. So I'm not all in on them in that regard. I think Momcilovic, my 3-point ace for Iowa State, and Mr. Lipsy in the backcourt will step up their game if there is no Jefferson in the lineup for the Cyclones of ISU. So there you have it. That's going to do it for this episode of 757 Sports Talk. For the coach, Ed Young, I am Matthew Hatfield. And if you missed last week's episode, you can always go back and watch it on our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel. Those were the Final Four picks going in. Ed had Arizona over Florida with Duke and Michigan in the Final Four. We did our brackets last week, while I, on the other hand, had Michigan over St. John's, with Houston and Arkansas joining them in the Final Four as 5, 2, and 4 seeds. So let's chalk for me while he went with all 1 seeds. What do you expect from Coach?
And that's why I'm in 3rd place, and you are in, 15th? Okay.
The game has just started. A lot more fun to come, and we'll see if I can catch you. We'll see you next time on Cova Sports TV. Have a great weekend. Keep buzzing, Ed. Keep buzzing on there with the Hornets. Don't get stung. Don't get stung.
I will be in the hive tonight.